Chapter 324. Yun Shang had no choice but to withdraw her hand. No matter what was behind this strange wall, she did not have the time to break it down today. Yun Shang turned back. The fantasy gold beast was indeed impressive. In just over an hour, it had already dug out more than 100 kilograms of purple gold ore. It was enough for Yun Shang and Lu Zi to report back. When the two of them brought the purple gold ore out, Lu Zi's father was a little puzzled. How did the two of them suddenly obtain so much purple gold ore? However, he did not ask further. The mysterious people brought in a new batch of miners. They worked day and night, 12 hours a day without rest. It was obvious that this group of mysterious people wanted to finish mining this purple gold ore vein in a short period of time. Yun Shang estimated that with the current number of villagers and mining speed, this ore vein would be completely dug out in about 10 days. She did not have much time left. Well done. Each of you can get an extra bun tonight. Now move the ores you've dug out to the Western District. The mysterious leader looked at everyone's progress and found that among this group of 20 villagers, even the two young villagers who looked thin and weak had dug out a full 50 kilograms of ores. This is the purple gold ore that was dug out? Yun Shang heard a female voice when she bent over to move the purple gold ore. Hearing the voice, Yun Shang's heart skipped a beat and she quickly lowered her head. Xian Mimi walked into the mine and casually picked up a piece of purple gold ore and weighed it in her hand. Xian Mimi's appearance made Yun Shang realize that Grand Emperor City was actually related to this ore vein. She immediately thought of the massacre of the city several years ago. It was very likely that Grand Emperor City had already set their eyes on this ore vein at that time. Miss Xian, please put down the ore. According to the agreement between our master and you, all the ore can only be divided after being transported out. The leader of the mysterious people did not seem to be on the same side as Xian Mimi. His businesslike tone made Xian Mimi very dissatisfied. The unruly Xian Mimi raised her eyebrows and pointed at the leader and scolded. Who do you think you are to speak to me in such a tone? If it weren't for us, would you have been able to find this purple gold mine? Young Miss Xian, you have provided the map of the ore vein, but if it wasn't for our master, would you have been able to obtain this batch of purple gold ore? That small leader was also a shrewd and ruthless person. They had long been dissatisfied with Di Hongcheng's brother and sister abusing others here. It was only because they abided by the initial agreement that they did not shed all pretense of cordiality. Although the purple gold ore had already been excavated, as one of the most special ores in the continent, the purple gold ore could only be purified after undergoing a special smelting process. In the entire continent, only a few specially trained mages were capable of refining and purifying ores. Although Xian Mimi was rude and unreasonable, she also knew that the ore this time was indeed indispensable to this group of mysterious people. In order to vent her anger, she threw the ore out and walked out angrily. Yun Shang heaved a sigh of relief. If Xian Mimi recognized her, it wouldn't be fun. However, at the same time, she also began to have doubts about the identity of this group of mysterious people. It seemed that this ore vein involved more than just Di Hongcheng and the mysterious people's power. Yun Shang pondered as she, Lu Zi, and the rest carried the ores to the Western District. There Yun Shang and the rest saw nearly a ton of purple gold ore again. At the same time, she also saw a few mages wearing magic cloaks and a few magic arrays. Yun Shang pretended to dawdle for a moment. After the villagers delivered the ores, the mages took the ores into the magic array and disappeared. Obviously, this group of mysterious people was very cautious. They must have smelted the purple gold ore in other places. In the past half a month, more than a ton of purple gold ore had already been transported out through these magic arrays. What are you looking at? Perhaps because Yun Shang had taken a few more glances, one of the mysterious people who was monitoring her swung a whip at her. Yun Shang didn't dare to use magic elements to block it, so she could only grit her teeth and withstand the whip. The whip with sharp barbs whistled through the air and swung toward Yun Shang's slender shoulder. Ah! A hand came out of nowhere and caught the whip in its hand. The barbs of the whip wrapped around the person's 5 fingers. The mysterious person standing beside Yun Shang caught the whip with his bare hands. When they left the mine, the mysterious man had been following beside Yun Shang the whole time. He had not said a word along the way. Yun Shang was a little surprised when he suddenly made a move. Seeing that it was one of his own people who made a move, the mysterious person couldn't help but get angry. What are you doing? The mysterious person tried to swing the whip, but when he tried to pull it, he realized that the whip was biting tightly in the other person's hand. Those who were dispatched to participate in this Orvain collection mission were all first-class warriors or mages in the country. Most of them didn't know the other person's identity because they were wearing masks. That said, all of them, with the exception of the squad leaders, possessed similar strength. For these mysterious people, once the villagers here finished collecting the ore, they would kill them sooner or later, so their attitude toward the villagers was also very bad. Based on their temperament, when they were happy, they would give them more food to eat, and when they were unhappy, they would beat and scold them. The mysterious person beside him just snorted. His 5 fingers were like eagle claws, and he suddenly exerted force. The whip, which was strong enough to break a rock weighing dozens of kilograms, was instantly broken into several pieces. The mysterious person who used the whip lost his balance and took a few steps back. With just one move, he could see that the other person's strength was much higher than his. He stared at the broken whip in surprise, and for a moment, he didn't dare to fight back. The leader said that we should be careful. In Zhou State, there are already people who have their eyes on us. It will be very difficult to catch new people. Don't kill people casually. These people are the main force of the ore mining. If we lose one, we will waste more time. It's not worth it. The mysterious person who attacked had a very strange voice. Yunsheng looked over from the side. Because he was wearing a mask, she could only vaguely recognize the other person's outline. This was a man with a very deep outline. He had a broad forehead, a sharp nose, beautiful lips, and dark brown eyes. But other than that, Yunsheng didn't feel familiar with him at all. If she hadn't told her second uncle in advance, Yunsheng would have thought that her second uncle had disguised himself to sneak in. Humph, get out of here. In anger, the mysterious person glared fiercely at Yunsheng and the others. Lu Zi's father hurriedly pulled Yunsheng away. After walking far away, Yunsheng couldn't help but look back at the mysterious person. It was sunset, and a touch of sunset light sprinkled on the man's body, plating a layer of golden light on the man's broad shoulders. For a moment, Yunsheng felt that she had seen an emperor come to the world. The pair of dark brown eyes turned into a glazed color in the sunlight, swaying. Chapter 325. The mysterious man's gaze fell on Yunsheng's feet. Yunsheng followed his gaze and found that because of the heavy shackles on her feet, after walking all the way, her delicate skin had already been scratched a few times. Originally, she didn't feel any pain, but when the mysterious man looked at her like this, Yunsheng felt that her wounds were burning. Weirdo. Yunsheng grinned and followed Lu Zi's father and the others back to the mine. Don't look, they left long ago. Chungbai came out. He stroked his chin and looked at his good friend Yi Baiming with a deep look. Before coming in, Baiming had warned him that he had to be careful with his words and actions in the mine. After all, among the 3 of them, Chongbai's temper was the most lively and hot-blooded. A few days ago, he had seen the mysterious man killing the villagers several times and wanted to intervene, but he was stopped by Yi Baiming. He didn't expect that today, Yi Baiming would be the first to break the rules. It seemed that Yi Baiming, who had always been too calm, would lose his cool when things were related to little miracle Dr. Yun. Yi Baiming's eyes wandered and he said in a deep voice, "How's Zhou Xiao? We've already found out the whereabouts of the purple gold ore. At most we can take action in 5 days. But how should we deal with these mysterious people?" Changbai looked at the magic array behind him. The whereabouts of the purple gold, or was their real goal? Kill them, don't leave a single one alive. Thinking of the wound on Yunsheng's feet and the whip just now, Yi Baiming's voice was as cold as an icicle in the 12th lunar month. Just hearing his voice made Changbai feel a chill run down his spine. TSK, it seemed that little miracle Dr. Yun was his brother's reverse scale. Whoever touched him would die. After returning to the mine, the villagers all breathed a sigh of relief. They had made it through another day. However, Yunsheng noticed that there was a bat on the wall of the cave that she had never seen before. She walked over to the bat and the bat silently landed beside Yunsheng. Under the bat's drooping wings, Yunsheng found a small piece of paper. It was a message from the sect. In the past few days, the hunting troops of the Sky Expedition Hunting Corps didn't mind. After failing to contact Marquis of Jiyuan's garrison, Yun Songlong no longer placed their hopes on the garrison. They suspected that the garrison had been bribed by these mysterious people. Without the help of the military, it would be very difficult for the Sky Expedition Hunting Corps to break through the magic formations and defenses around the mining area with just the soldiers they brought. It was obviously impossible to get the military's help. Yun Shang thought for a moment and took out a command token from her storage ring. This command token was something that Yun Shang had been given to her when she accepted the invitation of the Hunter Branch's consecrated elder of Mount Daoi. Yun Shang remembered that the person in charge of the Hunter Branch had said that as long as she showed this command token that symbolized her status as a consecrated elder, she could unconditionally ask for help from the Hunter Union. Although they were currently at the remote border of Zhouzhou State, the footprints of hunters could be found all over the country. With an elder's command token, she could call for help. Yun Shang immediately wrote a letter and hid the command token on the bat. Then she ordered the bat to rush back through the night. After secretly completing the deployment, Yun Shang returned to the cave. Around dawn, Yun Songlong and the others who were anxiously waiting in southern Clifftown finally heard the sound of a bat flapping its wings. Zhongyi waved his hand and the bat landed. On the bat's body, Zhongyi found a command token and a letter. Yun Songlong impatiently opened the letter. After he finished reading the letter, a rare look appeared in the depths of his eyes. Wow, as expected of our master. Other than being the medicine hall elder of the Wuxia Limitless School, he is also the consecrated elder of the Hunter Union. This is quite impressive. Zhongyi touched the elder's command token as if it was a treasure. Shang actually had connections with the upper echelons of the Hunter Union, and even had an elder's command token. Yun Songlong couldn't help but sweat. It seemed that his niece was much stronger than him. The elder's command token of the Hunter Union might not be as useful as the sect token of the Wuxia Limitless School. It could mobilize close to 100,000 martial warriors at once, but in terms of convenience it was better than the sect token. The use of the sect token required a person above the vice head of the Wuxia Limitless School to initiate it. Furthermore, the user had to be the holder of the sect token. However, the elder's command token of the Hunter Union didn't need to be so troublesome. Seeing the command token was like seeing the elder himself. Therefore, as long as Yun Songlong and the others held this command token, they could go to the Hunter Union branch near the border and obtain the help of the Hunter Union branch. Master Zongrun, leave the command token to me. I will go to the Hunter Union branch to seek help. Shang also mentioned in the letter that 3 days later, we will meet at an abandoned post dozens of miles away from the mining area. I will hand over all 50 of my brothers to you. It is most suitable for you and the magical beast to be in charge of receiving them. Due to the lack of time, Yun Shang's letter was very short, only a few words. Yun Songlong didn't even know what Yun Shang wanted people to receive. Understood. Master has always been shrewd in doing things. I will take care of it. However, when you go to the Hunter Union branch, it's best to find more mages. The thunder explosion array in the mining area is very troublesome. Zhongyi immediately brought Zhou Quan and the others to the location designated by Yun Shang. Yun Songlong also didn't stop and immediately rushed to the nearby Hunter Union branch. Around dawn, Bat brought back Yun Songlong's reply. It's almost time to take action. After Yun Shang finished reading the letter, she immediately burned it. She found Lu Zi's father and a group of trustworthy villagers who had been observing the situation in the past few days. Listen up, everyone. You must listen carefully to what I am going to say next. I plan to secretly escape with the villagers. Over the past few days, Yun Shang had relied on her medical skills to form a special kind of prestige among the villagers. The villagers were almost completely convinced by her words. But today, when Yun Shang said that she was going to escape, everyone was still shocked. Escape? Absolutely not. The villagers shook their heads like a rattle drum. They had seen the fierceness of the group of mysterious people many times. Not to mention a group of people, even one person couldn't possibly escape. Moreover, there were more than 300 villagers in the cave now. Including the villagers who were chased to the barn and those who were recruited to cook, there were more than 400 innocent villagers in the entire mining area. Such a group of people was equivalent to the size of a village. Unless there was a large number of flying magical beasts, it was absolutely impossible for a village to escape. The villagers were unwilling to die innocently. Yunsheng, this is too rash. Lu Zi's father also didn't agree with Yunsheng's approach. Everyone listen to me first. I have already seen the mine today. The vein inside can be excavated for at most 10 days. If we travel day and night, it won't exceed 7 days. Do you think that group of people will still let us live after the vein is excavated? Yunsheng understood that for these villagers, sometimes appropriate threats were more effective. Sure enough, after hearing Yunsheng's words, the villagers were all frightened and didn't know what to do. Thank you Bayu and Smoke Ring for your tips. Chapter 326. Instead of waiting here to be killed in 20 days, why don't we try my method? If we're lucky, we might be able to escape. It didn't matter if they died early or late. They might still have a chance to live if they tried. The villagers' hearts began to waver. Then tell us, how should we escape? We only leave the cave for a few hours every day. There are people watching us when we go out, the villagers said worriedly. I naturally have a way to get everyone out of the cave. I have a medicine here. Once you take this medicine, you will be like a dead person. However, after 12 hours, the medicine will lose its effect. Yunsheng took out a kind of herb. This kind of herb was something she found in the medicine hall of Wuxia Wuji school. It was called poison cardamom. This kind of poison cardamom looked no different from ordinary beans. There were some farmers who didn't know about it and would plant it as food. Once they mistakenly took it, their whole body would be paralyzed, their heart would stop, and even their breathing would be completely gone. To be honest, Lu Zi and I are actually hunters from a hunting group called Skyfelling. We are here to save everyone. You can trust us. The amount of poison cardamom I have is limited. I will let some of the weaker people in the cave take it first. After taking it, the mysterious people will definitely treat you as dead people and carry you out. At that time, I will have my own way to move the rest of the people out. Yunsheng took out the poison cardamom. Because they died of illness, the mysterious people would not privately feed these corpses to the magical beasts. As long as the corpses were thrown into the wild, after 12 hours, they would definitely wake up. At that time, these people who took the poison cardamom would be able to escape. When the villagers heard this, they didn't say a word. After a long while, one of them who looked more respectable said, "Everyone, don't doubt it. Most of us here, if it weren't for this hunter, we would have died long ago." The villagers discussed among themselves. They were all simple commoners who clearly distinguished between kindness and hatred. Yunsheng's arrival had brought hope, clean water and food to everyone. Soon the villagers spontaneously selected a group of people. There were about 100 people. Yunsheng distributed poisonous cardamom to each of them. The night passed and the sun had just risen when the mysterious group of people entered the cave again to capture the people. However, as soon as they entered the cave, they found that the cave was in a mess and 1/3 of the people had collapsed. He went forward to check and found that these people were all dead. Even their heartbeats were gone. They hurriedly looked for a few magicians who were proficient in magic potions. After checking, those magic potions masters shook their heads. What's going on? It's only been one night. How did these people die? The mysterious leader stomped his feet in anger after he came in. His master had already sent someone to urge him. He said that later Qin's border was ready to make a move. The Dark Prince's spies had already sent people to search the vicinity. In order to prevent being discovered, they had to speed up the excavation. However, at this critical juncture, so many people had died all of a sudden. This made the leader almost go crazy with anger. Perhaps the inside of the cave was too crowded, and the lack of ventilation caused an epidemic. The magic potions masters didn't have any concept of ancient medicine, and couldn't identify the poison of the poisonous cardamom. They thought that the large-scale deaths this time were caused by an epidemic. The leader looked at the other people in the cave and they also looked dispirited. He couldn't let the epidemic continue. The remaining 200 or so healthy villagers were his last trump card to mine the purple gold mine. After thinking for a while, the leader immediately made a decision. Trash. All of you are trash. What are you waiting for? If the corpses don't cause an epidemic here, move them all out. The rest of the villagers, move them to an open area and lock them up with the group of villagers in the livestock shed. Yunsheng mixed in with the crowd. When she heard the leader's words, a smile appeared on her face. Very good, she was waiting to be locked up together. The mysterious people drove the villagers away and carried the corpses out. While helping to carry the corpses, Yun Shang saw the mysterious people she had met earlier. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but she actually noticed that the other party looked at her and winked suspiciously. This made Yun Shang feel guilty for no reason, just as Yun Shang had predicted earlier, because they were worried that the corpses would cause the magical beasts to get sick. They ordered the villagers to throw the corpses far away. After throwing away the corpses, Yun Shang and the 200 or so villagers were all driven to the vicinity of the livestock shed. In this way, almost all the villagers who had been abducted were locked up together. Its mother. Lu Zi saw a familiar figure. When Lu Zi's mother saw her husband and son, whom she hadn't seen for many days, she also burst into tears. The family of 3 had never thought that there would be a day when they would be reunited in their lifetime. Liuzi, uncle, auntie, don't be so sentimental. Yun Shang stopped the emotional Liuzi's family. She handed a bag of poisonous cardamom to Lu Zi's mother. Aunt, you are in charge of the food of the mysterious people. Help to mix these beans with the beans that they eat daily. Lu Zi's father and son had already told Lu Zi's mother about Yun Shang's identity. Little magic doctor, are you going to poison them? Lu Zi's father couldn't help but be shocked. Looking at Yun Shang's bright eyes, he suddenly understood. From the epidemic to being driven to the livestock shed to being poisoned, Yun Shang had predicted all of this. 100 people died all of a sudden. The leader of the mysterious people ordered his men to carry the corpses out and throw them in the wilderness. Yi Baiming and Chang Bai were among them. Looking at the corpses that were casually thrown in the wilderness, Chang Bai was a little confused. What the hell is the little magic doctor doing? These people are not dead. Even the magic apothecaries accompanying the mysterious people did not notice it, but Yi Baiming immediately found it. Not dead? You mean it's her doing? Chang Bai was enlightened by Yi Baiming and couldn't help but click his tongue. Wasn't this little miracle doctor a little too bold? He actually dared to brazenly steal 100 people right under the nose of the mysterious man. In addition, can you think of other ways to save them faster and better? These villagers in front of him were all citizens of Zhou State. If possible, Yi Baiming also wanted to save them. These people seemed to be dead at first glance. But if they were really dead, how could their bodies and skin not be stiff after a night? Little wildcat, what a good trick. Is this the power of a doctor? She can save people and control their deaths. Yi Baiming pondered. This was the first time that he had a special sense of awe for someone, but he didn't expect that person to be her. Not long after the corpses were thrown in the wilderness, the Zong people arrived with dozens of hunters that night. When they saw the corpses all over the ground, they immediately treated them with the method taught by Yun Shang and quietly transferred them. Chapter 327. Within a day and a night, hundreds of people were transferred out of the mine. At the same time, Yun Songlong also arrived at the hunter branch in the south of the border, and showed the elder's order to the local director. Seeing the elder's token was like seeing the elder himself. After listening to Yun Songlong's explanation of the situation, the hunter branch immediately gathered all the hunters above Class D, who were on a mission nearby. After counting, there were more than 200 people. That night, Yun Songlong took these elite hunters and rushed to the mine. Little magic doctor, I'll do whatever you say. I don't want anything else. As long as Liuzi can go out safely and leave a descendant for my family, I'll be satisfied. Yun Shang suggested that Liuzi's mother put poisonous cardamom in the food of the mysterious men 3 days later. Liuzi's mother did not ask about the specific reason. Although she was just an illiterate peasant woman, she knew that there were some things that she should not ask. She carefully hid the poisonous cardamom given by Yun Shang. Sister-in-law, don't worry. Your family can go out safely. During this period, I need your and uncle's cooperation. Yun Shang found Liuzi's father and whispered a few words. Liuzi's father nodded repeatedly. Because of the sudden loss of 100 people, the head of the mysterious men was a little confused. Liuzi's father volunteered to give a suggestion to the mysterious man. Sir, I have an idea for you. If the idea is suitable, please let my family of 3 live after the mining is done. Lu Zi's father had a face full of loyalty as he begged the leader. The head agreed quickly but sneered in his heart, "How stupid. The day when the mining is finished will be the day you die." Liu Zi's father's idea was very simple, which was to increase the number of miners. The number of miners was increased from 20 to 100 at a time. No matter men or women, old or young, as long as they could work, they would be sent to the cave. The remaining 100 people were also rushed to the cave to transport the ores excavated at the site to the magic transmission formation. "Quick everyone, hurry up. We have to collect all the ores within 5 days." As a result, those mysterious people had to supervise the miners day and night. The entire mine was caught in an unprecedented high-intensity labor. Due to the lack of manpower, the mysterious people were also on the lookout, so they relaxed a little. After the third watch, the mining in the cave was still in full swing. Several mysterious people walked out of the mine, yawning again and again. "When will these days come to an end? If this goes on, even I won't be able to hold on, let alone the miners," one of them complained. "Who asked us to be so unlucky? If we were lucky enough to be assigned to the smelting team, we wouldn't have to suffer like this. I heard that this time the extraction of the purple gold vein was very successful. They extracted over 10,000 gene of the best quality purple gold, or even if we secretly hid a piece, it would be equivalent to 10 years of our salary." As the two of them were talking, they suddenly felt a piercing pain on their necks. In the next moment, the two heads rolled to the ground, and their eyes did not even have time to close. Yi Baiming and Chang Bai deftly took off the waist tags of the two mysterious people who were talking. More than 60 to 70% of the mine has been excavated. It's time to act. Yi Baiming had been lurking in the mine for a long time. Due to Yun Shang's sudden appearance, he had a premonition that the atmosphere in the mine was a little unusual. His sharp intuition told him that he had to act as soon as possible. Otherwise, he was afraid that the little wild cat would ruin his plan. The two of them took out the purple gold ores that they had prepared beforehand and walked towards the transportation area of the mine. When they passed by the defensive area of the mine, Yi Baiming glanced at the powerful magic thunder explosion formation. He suddenly stopped in his tracks. "What's wrong?" Chang Bai saw that he suddenly stopped and thought that something was wrong. Yi Baiming did not say a word. He raised his hand, and his hand emitted a black magic element. He fearlessly put his hand into the magic thunder explosion formation. In the eyes of others, the violent magic formation that would explode with a touch seemed to have no power in front of him. The magic element in the magic formation disappeared all of a sudden, and the magic formation became ineffective in an instant. Yi Baiming walked along and destroyed more than 10 magic thunder explosion formations in a row. He secretly said in his heart, "Little wild cat, don't let me down." Yi Baiming and Chang Bai walked all the way to the transportation area. "What are you two doing?" The magicians guarding the magic formation saw the two mysterious people and stopped them. "There's a shortage of manpower in the mine. We were ordered to send the ores for smelting," Chang Bai smoothly said. The two magicians checked the two's waist tags before letting them enter the magic formation. Inside the magic formation, magic elements flickered. Under the effect of space-time magic, Yi Baiming and Chang Bai found themselves in an unfamiliar area in the blink of an eye. Yi Baiming wrinkled his nose. He felt that the temperature around him and the soil under his feet were somewhat different. What a brilliant space-time magic. If he guessed correctly, the two of them were no longer in Zhou State's territory. To be able to use space-time magic for hundreds or even thousands of miles in an instant, there must be a magician in the other party's camp who could use high-level elemental magic. Baiming, look. Chang Bai's expression changed, and there was a hint of surprise on his face. The other end of the magic formation led directly to a large-scale smelting plant. At this moment, the smelting plant was bustling with activity. Hundreds of magicians in magic cloaks were hurriedly bustling about. The purple gold ores that were transported through the magic formation were piled up at the side. First, the magicians with the thunder attribute would break down the large pieces of purple gold ores. Then, the wind attribute magicians would transport them to a huge smelting pool that was the size of 2 basketball courts. There were a total of 30 fire attribute magicians using fire attribute magic at the same time. Not long after the purple gold ores were thrown into the furnace, They were quickly melted by the magic fire. Then, through the smelting pool, they were quickly channeled into another cooling pool. The purple gold ores that had been smelted by the magic fire were more than twice their original size. However, their color had also become more intense. That was the best purple gold. They only needed to be minted into coins before they could be circulated. It was estimated that the purple gold ores that had been transported here in the past 10 days were enough to be made into tens of millions of purple gold coins. Those busy magicians did not notice that there were two strangers in the smelting plant. It's actually a large-scale magic smelting plant? Even though Bu Jiuxiao had already infiltrated this place, Yi Baiming and Chang Bai did not expect that behind this group of mysterious people, there would be such a powerful magician background. Yi Baiming suddenly understood the true identity of this group of mysterious people. In fact, he should have guessed it long ago. On the mainland, only Tang Yuan could have the support of such powerful magicians. Chapter 328. What? You're saying that those ruthless and mysterious people are actually working for Tang Yuan's crown prince, Li Xiao? Chang Bai's expression changed. This time, Tang Yuan had joined forces with Grand Emperor City to first obtain the location of the purple gold mine. Then, they would wantonly capture the citizens of Zhou State to mine the mine. The entire plan was concealed very well, and there was no indication that Tang Yuan's people were involved. Chang Bai and the others' investigation was also focused on the hunters at the borders of Zhou State and the later Qin crown prince. They did not expect Tang Yuan Kingdom to appear at this time. Tang Yuan was located at the easternmost part of the boundless land. Crown Prince Li Xiao was known as the first of the Wuji Five Walls. He was also a rare genius. He could recite poems at the age of 3, and was familiar with the art of war at the age of 8. The rarest thing was that Li Xiao was modest and loved the people as if they were his children. He had always been known as a benevolent person in Tang Yuan. No matter what, destroy this smelting factory first and send out a signal for Jiu Xiao to start the operation. Yi Baiming's eyes darkened. A magic scepter appeared in his hand. On the magic scepter, 5 magic soul stones as dark as the night emitted a terrifying aura. At the same time, Yun Sheng's eyebrows twitched. She felt a chill down her spine. What's wrong? Lu Zi looked nervous. Nothing. I don't know why, but I have a bad feeling. Yun Sheng suddenly felt uncomfortable, as if she had been schemed against. At this time, Yun Sheng and Lu Zi were in the mine. The mysterious people who were careless did not notice that the two of them had sneaked into a tunnel. A layer of soil had already piled up in front of Yun Sheng. Behind the soil, there was a tunnel that was beginning to take shape. Just 2 days ago, after Yun Sheng managed to send the 100 weak villagers out, she began the second step of her rescue plan. To Yun Sheng and the Heaven Extermination Hunting Group, finding the purple gold mine was a small matter. Saving the lives of hundreds of villagers was a big matter. Yun Sheng was very confident that she could escape unscathed in the chaotic environment of the mine. However, she could not protect so many weak villagers. That day, when she used the fantasy gold beast to mine, Yun Sheng had an idea. Why not use the fantasy gold beast to sneak around the mine and let the villagers sneak out of the mine? She gave it a try and found that a golden illusion beast could dig a tunnel that was nearly 1 mile long in a single night. She had obtained a total of 5 fantasy gold beasts from the beast core. Yun Sheng had been controlling the 5 fantasy gold beasts for 2 consecutive days and nights. Just now, the fantasy gold beasts had informed Yun Sheng that they had successfully dug out a passageway to the outside of the mine. There's no time to lose. The tunnel is almost finished. Tonight, when the villagers have a short rest, I'll ask your mother to poison them. Yun Sheng had been waiting for this moment. Zhongxi had already brought back news that the 100 over villagers had been safely settled in southern Cliff Town. Second uncle also successfully mobilized hundreds of hunters to ambush outside the mining area. Tonight, when she gave the signal, they would immediately attack and occupy the mining area. What Yun Sheng needed to do was to evacuate as many villagers as possible when night fell. Night came as expected. Just like a few days ago around dusk, the mysterious people began to distribute food and water. Because they had to protect the villagers from mining, the food had improved a lot during this period. The villagers, who were tired after a day of hard work, sat in 2s and 3s and rested. The mysterious people took out good wine and meat and ate by themselves. Yun Sheng stole a glance. Because it was mealtime, the mysterious people were relatively relaxed. At this time, there were still more than 20 mysterious people, 10 fire lizards, and a few flying dogs in the mine. The mysterious people gobbled up the meat and drank the wine. No one noticed that there was an inconspicuous bean in their food. Yunsheng took a dry steamed bun and slowly moved to the side of a fire lizard. The rank 5 fire lizard's skin exuded a flame-like fighting aura. Little brat, go away. Be careful that the lizard will spit fire at you and kill you. The mysterious people saw that Yunsheng was thin and small, and wanted to reach out to touch the fire lizard, so they laughed at her. None of them were on guard. The fire lizards, who usually looked like strangers approaching them, all began to tremble when Yunsheng approached them. The magic beast's instincts told them that the other party was emitting a terrible wave. It was the unique wave of a summoner. It was a wave that was emitted by the summoning hand on Yunsheng's body. It was a wave that only Emperor Zhao had. Now Yunsheng had absorbed more than 20% of the summoning power from the summoning hand. It was easy for her to control these rank 4 and 5 magic beasts. Yunsheng seemed to be stroking the fire lizard out of curiosity, but in reality, the moment her hand touched the fire lizard's skin, the fire lizard was quickly tamed by her in just a few breaths. It was a pity that those fierce wind hounds had been lying next to the mysterious people. Yunsheng did not find a chance to tame them. In the time it took to eat, more than a dozen fire lizards were tamed by her. We've finished eating. Don't be lazy. Hurry up and dig. After the mysterious people finished eating, they burped a few times. Just as they were about to wave their whips to urge the villagers to get up, one of them suddenly felt that he could not lift his hand. Not only that, they could not move their feet. Then they could not even move their eyelids. Plop plop. One after another, more than a dozen mysterious people fell to the ground. There's poison in the food. Among them, some of the mysterious people had higher cultivation. The poison of the poisonous cardamom could not kill them in a short time. They shouted and drove the wind hounds away. They wanted to immediately inform the people outside the cave. But just as they were about to escape from the mine, more than a dozen fire lizards under their command spat out bursts of flames and fought with them. Seeing so many fire lizards suddenly turn against them, the villagers were dumbfounded. Everyone, let's go together. We can't let these evil thieves escape. Lu Zi's father had long been prepared. He and the villagers had long hated these mysterious people who killed people without batting an eyelid. Seeing that they had been poisoned and their limbs were weak, the villagers all took this opportunity to rush forward. They lifted the rocks and threw them at the group of mysterious people. A large number of villagers surrounded the remaining mysterious people. In just a moment, those mysterious people who had done evil were smashed all over the ground, and their heads were bleeding. Little magic doctor, what should we do next? After smashing those evil people to death, Lu Zi's father and the villagers were relieved, but at the same time they were very scared. They knew that if the mysterious people outside knew what had happened in the mine, they would definitely die. I think most of the mysterious people outside have also eaten the poison food. When they find out, they will definitely enter the cave. We must make good use of this period of time. Everyone takes a piece of purple gold ore, but don't be greedy. Follow me. Yunsheng led the villagers to the tunnel located at the fork. The villagers did not dare to be greedy. Each of them picked up a piece of purple gold ore again. In Yunsheng's words, these ores would fall into the hands of the Zhou state military anyway. The villagers' villages were destroyed, and some of them had lost their relatives. They needed a lot of money to rebuild. Chapter 329. There's a tunnel here that my companions dug. Yunsheng vaguely explained the origin of the tunnel. At this moment, the villagers were full of admiration for Yunsheng. They did not resist anymore and followed Yunsheng's arrangement. One by one they walked down the tunnel. When it was Lu Zi and his father's turn, Lu Zi's father hesitated for a moment and turned around. Little miracle working doctor. I'm worried about my wife. I want to go with her. You also need someone to help you. I was a hunter in my early years and know some martial arts. I'll stay and help you. Lu Zi also asked to stay. Well, Lu Zi uncle will stay. You and the rest of the villagers go all the way down the tunnel. When you reach a safe place, immediately go to Southern Cliff Town. My people will meet you halfway. Yunshang was very emotional about Luzi's father and mother's deep affection. She also knew that Luzi's father would not leave. After a few words of persuasion, Luzi reluctantly went into the tunnel. In just half an hour, the mine was empty, leaving only the bodies of more than 20 mysteries and magic beasts on the ground. Yunshang walked forward and pulled off the mask of one of the mysterious men. Luzi's father searched the mysterious man's body again, and he actually found a token. Yunshang looked at the token and found that the word Xiao was written on it. She could not recognize the specific origin of this token, so she put it away first. Uncle, do you know how to set traps? Later, after you and I sneak out. Yunshang remembered that there were still a few animal traps that she had taken from Banana Leaf Village in her storage ring. Yunshang commanded the fire lizard and Luzi's father to sneak out quietly. Although more than 200 people had been successfully transferred, there were still more than 100 villagers, including Luzi's mother, outside and in the area of the livestock shed. Yunshang asked Luzi's father to change into the clothes of the mysteries and escorted her out. Luzi's father walked out of the mine. Outside the mine, there were still a few mystery men on guard. They were waiting for the next batch of mystery men to take their shifts. The people outside the mine were completely unaware of the riot that had happened inside. What did this kid do? Seeing the dejected Yunshang, the guard asked. His hands and feet are dirty. He secretly hid a piece of purple gold oregon. If it was in the past, we would have beaten him to death long ago. Now that we don't have enough manpower, let's take him to the barn first. Luzi's father was very flexible. He even glared fiercely at Yunshang. Go to the kitchen and urge them. Those guys who changed shifts haven't come yet. Do they want to starve me to death? The man guarding the mine waved his hand impatiently. He didn't know that the group of mysterious people in the kitchen had already been poisoned by the poisonous cardamom and had fainted. Got it. Thank you for your hard work, brother. Luzi's father pushed Yunshang and walked quickly in the direction of the kitchen. Along the way, Yunshang suddenly found that the thunder explosion magic array, which was originally full of thunderstorm power, had all failed. God is really helping me. Yunshang couldn't help but feel happy. Everything had gone incredibly smoothly today. It was so smooth that it was as if someone was secretly helping her. Yunshang asked Luzi's father to set up a lot of animal traps along the way. The two came to the kitchen. As soon as they opened the door of the kitchen, they heard a gust of wind coming at them. Uncle, be careful. Yunshang immediately pulled out her magic scepter. The wind magic elements knocked away the wind coming at them. Mother, it's us. Luzi's father took a closer look and saw Luzi's mother and a group of women from the village and neighboring villages. They were all holding kitchen knives in their hands and surrounding the door of the kitchen. He hurriedly pulled off his mask. The knife just now was swung by Luzi's mother. After she slashed out, she saw that it was the little miracle-working doctor and her husband. These women, who usually didn't even dare to kill a chicken, had all been stimulated by the life-or-death experience. They held kitchen knives and looked fierce, as if they were going to fight to the death. Yunshang, who was still a little nervous, didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You scared me to death. Father, I just thought you were the accomplices of these villains. I followed the little miracle-working doctor's instructions and poisoned them all. Luzi's mother touched her chest and pointed behind her. Sure enough, dozens of mysterious people fell behind her. Yunshang's eyes turned cold. She asked Luzi's father to go up and slit their throats with a knife. She had no sympathy for these villains. Yunshang counted. Including those who had been killed earlier, at least half of the mysterious people in the mining area had been killed by them. The most troublesome ones now were the leader of the mysterious people with the highest cultivation, and the Xian siblings in the mining area. Everyone, don't panic. Your families and children are safe. Don't leave the kitchen first. Auntie, do you know where the leader and the Xian siblings live? Yunshang asked Luzi's mother. Yes, I know. Every day at this time, I and several little cooks here deliver food to them. Luzi's mother was relieved when she heard that Luzi had gone out safely. How about this? I'll disguise myself as a cook and go with Auntie. Yunshang quickly changed into a little cook's disguise. She and Luzi's mother each carried a heavy food box and rushed towards the residence of the leader and the Xian siblings. They walked forward with their heads down. They walked through more than half of the mining area and came to a temporary tent. The tent was lit with luminous pearls. Chapter 330. The leader was obviously shocked. He grabbed the person who came and asked sternly, "Say it again. What happened to those teleportation magic arrays? They don't work anymore. Our people brought a batch of newly collected purple gold ore. As usual, when they were about to go through the magic arrays, everyone who went in was ejected." The mysterious man was also at his wits' end. He could only immediately return to report to the leader. Impossible. The magic arrays that Master had people draw were all made by the best magicians in the country. The leader's face was full of disbelief. He immediately rushed to the magic arrays with his men. "Take those 2 women with you." He looked back at Yunshang and Luzi's mother and ordered his men to bring them along. Yunshang remained calm and collected. She and Luzi's mother followed the mysterious men to the teleportation magic arrays. Just as the mysterious men had said earlier, those teleportation magic arrays were now dim and lifeless. Yunshang also noticed that there were no space-time magic elements in those magic arrays. It was as if someone had sucked all the magic elements out of those magic arrays. It was exactly the same as the thunderstorm magic arrays. Yunshang could not help but be surprised. Who was the mysterious man who could break such powerful magic arrays at once? The leader of the mysterious men felt that something was wrong. "Come, bring all the villagers here. Take those 2 women and bring them to the cave." The leader of the mysterious men knew very well that these teleportation magic arrays led to the magic smelting field that Master had meticulously set up. Now that the magic arrays had suddenly stopped working, they had lost contact with the smelting field. Something must have happened at the smelting field. Tens of millions of purple gold ore, and nearly 100 magicians from Master's residence. The only thing the mysterious leader could do now was to beg those magicians and the purple gold ore to be safe. Otherwise, he did not dare to think further. He thought that no matter what method he used, he had to transfer the remaining purple gold ore away. This way at least he could report back to Master. "Is there any movement inside?" The team leader and the rest of the mysterious people drove the rest of the villagers to the outside of the mine. "There's nothing going on. Everything is very quiet." The few mysterious people guarding outside the mine did not know what was going on when they saw the small leader leading a group of people over. "I suspect that someone has snuck into the mine. The magic arrays outside have all been destroyed. Drive all these people in." The leader was very shrewd. He was afraid that the enemies who were lying in ambush had already sneaked into the mine. He drove the rest of the villagers into the mine first. Then he waited outside and listened to the movements inside. At this time, Luzi's father was waiting in the kitchen. After waiting for a long time, Yunshang and Luzi's mother did not come back. He was a little anxious. Calculating the time, it was about time. He took out a signal rocket that Yunshang had given him before she left and threw it into the air. The fire beacon arrow flew into the sky and exploded in midair. A smoke signal floated into the air. Almost at the same time, Yun Songlong and the hundreds of hunters who were lying in ambush outside the mine received the signal. "Everyone, let's charge inside." "What's that sound?" After the leader of the mysterious men drove the group of villagers in, there was no movement for a long time. When he heard the signal of the fire beacon arrow, his expression changed. "Sir, it's not good. There are many hunters outside rushing in." The mysterious man who was keeping watch outside reported in horror. "Capture all the people inside." "A few hundred hunters?" When the leader of the mysterious men heard this, he understood that he had fallen into the other party's trap. More than half of the mages under his command were gone, and there were less than 100 people left. Once the other party's elite hunters were out, it would be difficult to resist. He could only use the hundreds of hostages at hand. Who knew that when they rushed into the mine, they would find that there were no villagers inside? Not a single one. How is this possible? The leader of the mysterious men looked as if he had been struck by lightning. He looked at the empty cave and was speechless. "Who said that there's no one left? I'm still waiting for you here." A clear voice came from a corner of the mine. A young man stood in the middle of the deadly purple gold ore. The leader of the mysterious men immediately recognized her. She was the little cook who had delivered food to him earlier. Who are you? The leader of the mysterious men still could not understand how so many villagers suddenly disappeared. Yin Yun from the Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps. Yunsheng smiled. Although she was young, she was beautiful. When she smiled, the group of mysterious men only felt that their eyes were dazzled. Hunters. You're with the hunters outside. What a Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps. I didn't think that we would fall into your trap. However, you're really not afraid of death. Do you think that you can defeat us alone? The leader of the mysterious men could not help but shake his head. This young lady was also stupid. At this time she should be hiding. Who told you that I was alone? Yunsheng pursed her lips and pulled out her magic scepter. Mage. So what if you're a magician? Even if you're a high-level magician, we'll be able to capture you while you're chanting. The leader waved his hand, and the dozens of mysterious men beside him pounced on Yunsheng like hungry wolves. Mages were naturally at a disadvantage. Furthermore, the other party was only a young mage. Never underestimate your enemy, idiots. Yunsheng's red lips curled up slightly. She pointed her magic scepter at the ground and a summoning array appeared under her feet. The ground churned and the purple gold ore rolled all over the ground. A terrifying magic beast the size of an elephant with 100 legs emerged from the ground. Magic beast. Could it be that the other party was not an ordinary mage? She was also a summoner? When the unknown species of magic beast appeared, the leader realized that the wind hounds beside him were all trembling in fear. Although he was not a summoner, he could feel that the magic beast was emitting a terrifying aura. This aura had not appeared even on the Crown Prince's mount, the level 9 dragon horse. Could it be that it was an existence that surpassed level 9? What a pity. If you obediently ate the poison food I prepared for you, you could still be full. Now you can only be used to feed my centipede ants. Leave no one alive. Yunsheng's eyes flashed and a murderous look appeared on her pretty face. The magic scepter in her hand shot out several fire arrows at the same time. The centipede ants flapped their wings and spat out venom from their mouths. Blood and flesh rained down in the mine. The leader of the mysterious men was quickly forced to retreat. Chapter 331. Escape. He had to escape. Only now did he understand how terrifying this female summoner of the Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps was. Her small figure shuttled through the group of mysterious people, each hand releasing a flame explosion. The crimson flames made her eyes look blood red. When she killed, her black hair fluttered in the wind. She was like a demon from hell, taking lives with every move. In front of the centipede ant, these martialists, who had undergone strict training, were torn to pieces and swallowed in one gulp. The pleas and cries for help from her subordinates were like a never-ending song. Under the cover of a few mysterious people, the leader finally managed to kill his way out of the mine. However, when he stepped out of the mine, he was met with hundreds of hunters waiting for him outside. Originally, everyone was prepared to fight to the death and see a tragic scene of corpses everywhere. However, when they entered, they felt that it was inconceivable. They found the dozens of villagers who were still in the kitchen and rushed to the mine. Just as they were about to kill their way in, they saw a few cultivators covered in blood running out in a sorry state. Their expressions were as if they had seen a ghost. The person in the lead was like a god, unstoppable. Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps, Yun Songlong. We have been waiting here for a long time. Without the lightning explosion magic array, Yun Songlong and the hundreds of hunters killed their way in. Zhou State Yun Songlong. When he saw the godlike Yun Songlong and his intact arm, the leader of the mysterious people could no longer support himself. His knees went weak and he collapsed to the ground. How did this person end up like this? Where were the other mysterious people? Second uncle, you came just in time. Yun Songlong was puzzled when he saw his niece walk out of the mine with a relaxed expression. When he saw Yunsheng, the leader of the mysterious people shouted, "Don't come over! Don't come over!" He looked as if Yunsheng was a demon. Yun Songlong had a headache. It seemed that this group of people had been messed with by his niece. Second uncle. Yunsheng still wanted to say something, but suddenly, Yun Songlong's expression changed. The hunters also looked behind them vigilantly. Warhorses neighed. At the entrance of the mine, Military flags fluttered in the wind like the clouds in the sky. Above the flags were embroidered the words, Zhou State. A general from Zhou State galloped over. Behind the horses were the Xian siblings from Grand Emperor City. Zhou State's Marquis of Jiyuan's army has come under orders to encircle and suppress bandits. All of you quickly retreat. That general was precisely the nephew of the Marquis of Zhouan that Yun Songlong had met earlier, the general of the southern border garrison and Irani. Zhou State garrison? Yun Songlong's expression changed drastically. He looked at the Xian siblings beside an Irani and knew that something was amiss. Yun Shang also didn't expect that the situation that had been completely under control would suddenly change because of the sudden appearance of the southern border garrison. So it's brother Yun. Seeing the group of hunters standing together, then looking at the mysterious person kneeling on the ground, an Irani's small eyes narrowed. He and Yun Songlong could be considered old acquaintances. The two of them were about the same age. It was just that when Yun Songlong joined the army, he had always suppressed him in every aspect. This made the petty Irani very dissatisfied. Several years ago, Xin Wuji had plotted against Yun Songlong and caused him to be crippled. When an Irani found out, he even held a banquet in his official residence to celebrate. Without Yun Songlong as an eyesore and with the help of the Marquis of Jiyuan, an Irani had a meteoric rise. He even managed to obtain a lucrative position as the general of the southern border garrison. These years he had acted like a tyrant in the border area. He had colluded with Emperor Hongcheng, later Qin, and Tang Yuan. He had originally reaped great benefits from the purple gold mine this time. Who would have thought that Yun Songlong and the local hunters would appear halfway and ruin his plans? The Xian siblings were also cunning. They had discovered that the magic array in the mine was damaged before the mysterious person's team leader. They knew that something was amiss, so they informed an Irani overnight and let him take over the mine in the name of Zhou State garrison before Yun Songlong, and the others interrogated the mysterious person. General and I, long time no see. His Majesty had us investigate this mine when we were in Yujing earlier. Yun Songlong also knew that something was amiss, but he had already resigned from his position as the general of Zhou State. In terms of status, he was now a citizen and Irani was an official. In Zhou State he couldn't make an enemy of Irani. He could only tell Irani about the appointment of the Emperor of Zhou State. The Marquis has already mentioned this matter to me. Since the mine has been found, let us deal with these villains who have seized the mine. Also, let me take over the mine behind you. Irani coveted the mine when he thought of the remaining half of the purple gold mine. This group of damn hunters, they don't know what's good for them. How dare they take away my source of income? Let him take over the mine and the mysterious person? Yun Shang couldn't help but frown. But if she didn't agree, it would be tantamount to disobeying the military order. The hunters of the Hunter Union wouldn't agree to make an enemy of the army. She and second uncle obviously couldn't confront the army head-on. Irani had come prepared today. He had brought thousands of elite defenders with him. The Xian siblings were secretly pleased, especially Xian Wuji. When he saw Yun Songlong's dissatisfaction, he felt even more delighted. Wait, which idiot said to hand over the mine? Zhongyi sat on the dragon-clawed bat in the sky. He looked down at Irani with a fierce expression. The Xian siblings also recognized Zhongyi. A sacred beast summoner? Irani's heart skipped a beat when he saw the huge bat below him. Since when was there a holy beast summoner in the Great Zhou dynasty? For you are. Irani was a general of the border guards after all. He had seen the world. He also knew that he couldn't fight force with force when facing someone as strong as Zhongyi. Master Summoner, according to the agreement of the Boundless Continent, this mine is a purple gold mine. This purple gold mine is located in the territory of the Great Zhou dynasty, so it naturally belongs to the Great Zhou dynasty. You see, Irani thought that even a sacred beast summoner could not openly snatch a mine from the Great Zhou dynasty. Who said so? 50% of the ore found in this mine belongs to me. This was said by the Emperor of Zhou State himself. Zhongyi glared and the dragon-clawed Bat King flapped its wings continuously. After the dragon-clawed Bat King leveled up, its body was more than a third bigger than before. Its flapping wings were like a small tornado. The soldiers below were blown all over the place. In irony struggled to steady himself. He stammered, "Sir Summoner, are you telling the truth? You have no proof." "No proof. Look at what this is." Zhongyi threw down a piece of cloth. Chapter 332. When she saw the cloth, the corner of Yunshang's mouth couldn't help but twitch. This Zhongwei was really a clown. Earlier he had forced the Zhou state's emperor, Yichuntan, to cut out 50% of the mine's ownership. He was also afraid that the Zhou state's emperor would go back on his word. In order to prevent others from saying that his imperial seal and signature were fake, he tore off a piece of the Zhou state's emperor's robe and forced the Zhou state's emperor to sign it himself before stamping it with his imperial seal. Only then did an irony see the ownership of the mineral vein. An irony was skeptical. He carefully looked at the ownership of the mine. That piece of cloth was an imperial cloth. The imperial seal and the words were all written by the Zhou state's emperor himself. In this way, an irony had nothing to say. "I see. Since Lord Summoner has proof, then half of the mine's ownership belongs to you. As for..." An irony wanted to continue. "The ownership of the mine is not enough. The ores that are dug out must also be divided into two. Leader Yun, find someone to enter the mine and record all the purple gold ores that have been mined. Half of these ores belong to this old man." Zhongwei looked old-fashioned, but his brain worked faster than anyone else's. When an irony heard this, he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The Xian siblings' faces were also as black as the bottom of a pot. They had originally planned to tamper with the purple gold ores that had been mined. With Zhongwei's plan, even if they wanted to tamper with the ores later, they would have no way to do so. Xian Wuji's eyes turned. Suddenly, he thought of a plan and whispered in an irony's ear. When an irony heard this, he put on a smile. "Lord Summoner, this official has something to discuss with you. Earlier, you said that His Majesty gave you half of the mine's ownership in order to find the mine. Why don't we divide the ownership of the mine now? This mine is divided into two directions, north and south. Most of the mines in the south have been mined by my Zhou state's villagers. This official thinks that since this is the case, why don't we use the north and south as the boundary? The south belongs to our Zhou state and the north belongs to Lord Summoner?" An irony's words were very clever. However, when Yunshang heard this, she sneered in her heart. With north and south as the boundary, an irony and Xian Wuji were truly cunning. Zhongyi did not enter the mine, so how would he know the distribution of the purple gold ores on the north and south sides? In fact, this purple gold mine was very unevenly distributed on the north and south sides. Most of the purple gold mines that were easy to dig were on the south side, while the north side was barren. However, Yunshang remembered the strange wall on the north side. An irony and Xian Wuji exchanged glances. They were certain that Zhongyi had never entered the mine before, and would not know the situation inside. Zhongxi glanced at Yunshang and saw her nod. "All right, I won't take advantage of Zhou state. I'll divide the remaining mine into two. The south will belong to you, and the north will belong to me. Neither the north nor the south is allowed to interfere." When an irony heard this, he nodded his head like he was pounding garlic. He was still afraid that Zhongyi would go back on his word, so he ordered his subordinates to write a contract. Both parties signed it separately, one copy for each person. Thus, the matter of the mine came to an end. An irony ordered his men to escort the mysterious people away. After Yun Songlong thanked the hunters who came to help, he settled the villagers down and the Heaven Hunting Corps members returned to Southern Cliff Town. The rescued villagers thanked him profusely. They firmly remembered the kindness of the Heaven Hunting Corps. The Heaven Hunting Corps' reputation also rose because of this incident. However, this was a story for later. After Yun Shang returned to the inn, she showed the token with the word Shao on it to Yun Songlong. After Yun Songlong checked it, his expression changed. "Sheng'er, are you sure this token was found on the mysterious people? This token seems to belong to Tang Yuan and Li Xiao's personal guards. It's a pity that the mysterious people have already been taken away by an irony. If I'm not wrong, Dihong City, an irony, and Tang Yuan must have colluded with each other." Yun Shang felt that it was a pity that 2/3 of the purple gold ore had fallen into the hands of Tang Yuan's people. Li Xiao is Tang Yuan's second prince. This person is also a top figure, so we need to be more careful. Also, we must have offended Dihong City this time. We need to be more careful in the future. Yun Songlong thought of the sinister glance Xian Wuji gave them when he left the mine. Second uncle sure knows what to do. I want to stay at the border for a few more days and develop the purple gold or vein in the north. The Heaven Hunting Corps' current equipment and members are still too few. After developing the purple gold or vein, we can obtain more funds. Yun Sheng told Yun Songlong her thoughts. I'll leave the matter of the ore vein to you. And Irony's men have already started to mine the ore vein. What I mean is that after they've finished mining, we'll go in to investigate to avoid any conflicts. Yun Songlong chose a reliable hunting soldier and handed it to Yun Sheng. The Heaven Hunting Corps' reputation had spread far and wide. During this period of time, many missions had come to them. Two pieces of news quickly came from Irony's side. The first piece of news was about the purple gold or that had been divided. Yun Sheng and the others had been given a share of the purple gold or that was worth 1 million. The second piece of news was about the leader of the mysterious people. Not long after that leader was captured by Zhou State's army, he committed suicide with a group of other mysterious people. And Irony even hung his corpse at the entrance of Southern Cliff Town. However, his face had been scratched into a mess. On the night after the corpse was hung up, a few fast horses crossed the southern border and headed towards Tangyuan. Late at night 3 days later, in the capital of Tangyuan, the most powerful country in the east of the boundless continent. As the country with the most mages on the continent, Tangyuan was emitting the aura of magic everywhere. In the population ratio here, the ratio of ordinary people to mages was as high as 3 to 1. This ratio meant that 1 out of 4 people was a mage. There was a record of the continent's historians. Among the 5 major countries on the continent, other than the East Imperial capital, the other 5 had their own characteristics. Their characteristics could be seen just by looking at the city walls of their respective imperial capitals. For example, Zhou State and later Qin, countries that worshipped martial arts. Most of their imperial capital's city gates were built with huge stones. The city walls were sturdy and could withstand the impact of thousands of troops and horses. Penglai was a natural sea country. They used the sea as their wall and countless sea beasts were their best defense. As for the immortal abode, it was a country of elves. The everlasting elven forest was the most natural city wall. As for Tangyuan's imperial capital, Bianliang, it looked no different from an ordinary city. However, upon closer inspection, one would realize that there were countless magic arrays drawn on the city walls of Bianliang. This was a country of magic. Chapter 333. The streets of Bientong were not lit by ordinary lamps, but by magic lamps that would not be extinguished for decades. At night, a few horses galloped along the street, led by Xian Wuji and the mysterious leader who should have killed himself long ago. Outside a quiet mansion, the courtyard was deep and bustling. The lanterns of the crown prince's residence were like a long dragon, emitting a frightening light in the dark night. When Xian Wuji and the mysterious leader saw Li Xiao, the second prince of Tangyuan Li Xiao, he was sipping tea. This man, known as the first of the Wuji 5 Jade Walls, had a picturesque appearance. In terms of appearance, he did not have Yi Baiming's exquisite features, nor did he have Xiao Wenshu's aura that made people unconsciously feel close to him. But Li Xiao's uniqueness was that he was just right, neutralizing Yi Baiming's exquisite handsomeness with Xiao Wenshu's temperament. In addition, he had been trained in the royal family since he was young, so no matter the occasion, he could shine like the most precious purple gold. In the pavilion, Li Xiao personally boiled the water, placed the tea leaves and washed them. Every movement was very elegant and almost impeccable. Second prince, I deserve to die. The purple gold vein has been taken away. When the mysterious leader saw Li Xiao's peaceful expression, he knelt on the ground. In front of this elegant master, he didn't even dare to say a word. There's more. Li Xiao picked up the fragrant cup and blew on it. The smelting field has been destroyed. More than 100 mages, and tens of millions of top-grade purple gold that had been refined are missing. When the leader of the mysterious people heard the news, he gritted his teeth so hard that they almost broke. He had wanted to die, but when he thought of his wife and children, he had no choice but to bite the bullet and return to Tangyuan. He knew that if he dared to defect, what awaited him would be endless pursuit. Do you know who did it? Li Xiao's face was still calm and elegant, but there was a dark undercurrent in his eyes. Those familiar with Li Xiao knew that this was a sign that he was enraged. After nearly a year of planning, they obtained the purple gold mine from the Grand Emperor city at a high price. Everything went smoothly with more than 100 elite magicians. Whether it was Zhou State or later Qin, no one discovered their secret. But just a few days ago, several bad news came one after another. Zhou State's army launched a surprise attack on the purple gold mine. More than 100 magicians in the smelting factory were slaughtered, and the smelting pool, which was originally filled with purple gold water, flowed with blood. All of his hard work had been destroyed in a single night. The most despicable thing was that tens of millions of purple gold had disappeared in a single night. The casualties were heavy, and these people were all elites under Li Xiao. I don't know. The leader's voice was filled with fear. I don't know. Captain Lin, please get up first. Li Xiao put down the cup in his hand. A silver light flashed in the cup. Although I don't know who destroyed the smelting factory, in this mine incident, a new hunting corps called the Sky Expedition Hunting Corps played a major role. They saved the villagers. This subordinate suspects that the tens of millions of purple gold that disappeared without a trace also went into their pockets. That hunting corps' strength is not to be underestimated. Their leader is the former military general of the Great Zhou dynasty, Yun Songlong. They also have a summoner who can summon commander-level magical beasts. The leader of the mysterious group only knew that he had been captured. He did not know how he had fallen into the encirclement of the Heaven Expedition Hunting Corps. Yun Songlong? Wasn't his hand crippled? When did Zhou State have a summoner who can summon commander-level magical beasts? Li Xiao's expression changed slightly. Zhou State's national fortune was declining, but he didn't expect that several powerful people from Zhou State would be implicated this time. I saw it with my own eyes. Yun Songlong's hands are as good as new, and his cultivation is not inferior to before. As for the summoner, she is young, but very sinister and cunning. Her name is Yan Yun. The leader of the mysterious people described Yun Shang's situation. Captain Lin, you've worked hard these days. Li Xiao changed the topic and raised the cup of tea he brewed earlier. This cup of tea is for you. When the leader of the mysterious people heard this, his forehead immediately broke out in a cold sweat. The crown prince's tea, he trembled and took the cup of tea. The silver light of the tea reflected the bright moon in the sky. I know that I have committed a capital offense. I only hope that your highness can spare my wife and children on account of my years of loyalty. The mysterious person drank the cup of tea in one gulp. Very good. Lin Xiaowei, you can leave. Li Xiao walked to the leader of the mysterious people. He raised his hand and patted Lin Xiaowei's shoulder. Lin Xiaowei only felt a cold finger caressing his shoulder. The crown prince didn't blame him? The leader of the mysterious people was overjoyed. He hurriedly kowtowed to express his gratitude and couldn't wait to leave. He had only taken 3 steps when his eyes suddenly widened. A layer of ice quickly condensed on his lower limbs. The ice layer quickly spread to his entire body. In the end, even his hair and eyebrows were completely frozen. With a crack, the leader who was kowtowing to express his gratitude a moment ago turned into an ice sculpture. The ice sculpture shattered inch by inch and quickly turned into a puddle of water. Xian Wuji, the young castellan of Grand Emperor City, who was originally sitting at the side and sipping his tea, couldn't help but shake the teacup in his hand. A drop of hot water splashed out. The water splashed on his hand, but he didn't feel hot. He seemed to feel a wave of icy magic elements surrounding him. That pat just now. Xian Wuji finally realized that Tang Yuan and Li Xiao's seemingly careless pat was a fatal one. Even with Xian Wuji's cultivation, he couldn't tell when exactly Li Xiao had injected the fatal ice magic elements into Lin Xiaowei's body. The Wuji 5 annulus was indeed worthy of its name. It was rumored that Tang Yuan and Li Xiao were adept at water magic and could kill people without leaving a trace. Xian Wuji watched as a living soldier turned into a puddle of water in the span of a few breaths. His heart was filled with fear. He coughed and put down the teacup in his hand. Speaking of which, the cooperation between Grand Emperor City and Tangyuan was carried out in secret. Xian Wuji had originally planned to take advantage of this opportunity to make a huge profit. Who knew that the Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps would suddenly appear and disrupt their plans? Xian Wuji was still depressed. Seeing that Yun Songlong had recovered, Xian Wuji came to Tangyuan this time to ally with the second prince, Li Xiao, and think of a way to deal with the people of the Yun residence. According to his understanding of Li Xiao, this person looked benevolent but was actually sinister and narrow-minded. He definitely wouldn't let the loss of tens of thousands of kilograms of purple gold or go. September 1st, a new month, a rush for votes. Chapter 334. Li Xiao's face was still warm, as if the person who had just died in front of him was not a person, but an ant. Compared to Li Xiao, Xian Wuji was far inferior in terms of viciousness. He thought to himself that he must not have any conflicts with Li Xiao in the future. This time it's all thanks to Brother Xian for sending the person back. Otherwise, if my identity was leaked, it would definitely cause unnecessary diplomatic disputes. Li Xiao sipped his tea as if he did not notice the change in Xian Wuji's expression. He still had a modest smile on his face. Your Highness is too polite. The relationship between Dihong City and Tangyuan has always been good. This time, if it wasn't for Yun Songlong and his damned hunting corps, we would have already succeeded. Xian Wuji's face was filled with indignation when he thought of his love rival, Yun Songlong. He had been busy and wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to obtain a windfall. Who knew that Yun Songlong and those damned hunting corps would ruin his plan? Xian Wuji had never thought that the ones who had really hindered his entire plan were Yun Sheng, whom he had ignored, and Yi Baiming, who was hiding in the shadows. Brother Xian, do you want to permanently eliminate Yun Songlong? Li Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly. His tone was very amiable, as if he was not discussing killing someone. Of course I do, but it's easier said than done. Back then I had such a good opportunity, but I didn't get rid of Yun Songlong. Now that his hands have recovered, his cultivation is even stronger than before. Xian Wuji hated Yun Songlong to the bone. A few years ago, Yun Songlong had caused him to lose his fiancée and his prestige in Dihong City. Now, he had also caused him to lose a large amount of purple gold coins for no reason. Xian Wuji wanted nothing more than to drink his blood and eat his flesh. On the other hand, the Heaven Expedition Hunting Corps had earned their reputation and half of the ore vein. Brother Xian, you're wrong. Dihong City can easily eliminate a mere Yun Songlong. The terrifying one is not Yun Songlong, but the martial saint of Zhou State, Yun Ba, Li Xiao said. A large part of the reason why Zhou State was able to stand tall on the boundless continent was because of the martial saint of Zhou State, Yun Ba. As long as Yun Ba was killed, the residents of Yun and Zhou State would be in imminent danger. But Yun Ba's martial realm had already reached the level of a saint. Back then I spent a lot of money to invite Tian Kezi, but he defeated him with half a move. Later Qin had no choice but to retreat. Where am I supposed to find a martial saint expert to kill Yun Ba? Zuan Wuji also recalled that back then, he had almost been able to kill Yun Songlong. It was that old bastard Yun Ba who had single-handedly killed thousands of Grand Emperor City's warriors. Coupled with Yuan Shahua's death threat, Grand Emperor City had no choice but to give up on the plan to kill Yun Songlong. I have a plan. As far as I know, Yun Ba's vitality was greatly damaged in the battle between him and the martial saint of later Qin, Tian Kezi. After all these years, his martial realm cultivation has not improved. As long as we use some methods to make Yun Ba, if someone were to challenge Yun Ba at this time, what do you think the result would be? Li Xiao said slowly. What do you mean, Brother Li? Zuan Wuji hesitated. Li Xiao's words were very reasonable. Even the current city lord of Grand Emperor City, Zuan Wuji's father, Xian Wuming, had warned him not to provoke the residents of Yun. Although Yun Ba had not moved around the continent in recent years, he was like a sleeping lion. If he was forced into a corner, even Grand Emperor City would suffer countless casualties. No, I mean to use intelligence and not brute force. Li Xiao took out a crystal bottle and placed it in front of Yun Ba. This is. Zuan Wuji took the crystal bottle, opened it and sniffed. The liquid inside was colorless and odorless. At first glance it looked like ordinary water. This is one of my Tang Yuan's secret medicines. It is a slow-acting poison. As long as one takes this poison, no matter how powerful a martial artist is, as long as they are injured, their body will explode and they will die. Think about it, if Yunba dies, you can do whatever you want with the residents of Yun and Yun Songlong. Li Xiao's face was still gentle and refined. However, his words were the most vicious in the world. Ordinary doctors and apothecaries would not be able to discover this unique medicine. Once it entered the body, it would immediately invade the blood vessels and tendons. Even if someone discovered it, it would be very difficult to detoxify. Is this medicine really effective? Zuan Wuji was still somewhat apprehensive. If you don't believe me, Brother Xian, you can try it. You only need to find someone Yunba trusts and secretly add this medicine into his daily diet. In less than a month, Yunba will become a cripple. At that time you can ask Tian Kezi to challenge him. Li Xiao pushed the medicine in front of Zuan Wuji. Zuan Wuji thought for a moment. When he thought of Yun Songlong's high-spirited appearance, he could no longer hold back and kept the medicine bottle in the purple gold mine. Young master, we can't dig any further after digging to this point. This wall is really too hard. Zhou Quan and the others wiped the sweat off their foreheads. Each of them was as tired as a dog. They were just short of lying on the ground. A few days ago, he and more than 20 other hunters were gathered by young master. At that time, young master had seriously told them that he was going to give them a particularly difficult task. At that time they were all excited, thinking that they were different from the rest and had been chosen by young master for a special task. Who would have thought that young master would lure them to the purple gold mine and make them dig up all the ore veins in the north of the mine like groundhogs? Later on, when they asked around, it turned out that their miserly young master Yun had said that it would cost money to hire miners. Since the hunting corps had limited funds, they might as well pick a few strong hunters to do the mining. Everyone had cried out in grief at that time. When they had heard that Grandmaster Zhongren had obtained half of the purple gold mine, the hunters of the Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps had rejoiced for a while. Everyone thought that they would be able to live a good life from now on. Later on, they found out that this mine was the leftover ore from Zhou State's army. There wasn't much purple gold ore left in the north of the mine. They didn't know what the shrewd young master was planning to do this time. He had actually asked for such a waste mine. Fortunately, young Master Yun held a high position in the hearts of all the hunters. No one dared to disobey his orders. Zhou Quan's face was covered in dirt as he worked for a few days. Finally, he had dug out more than half of the mine. After digging, Zhou Quan realized that a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. They had dug out about 1,000 caddies of purple gold ore from the waste mine. After refining it, they should be able to get a few 100,000 Empire purple gold coins. Who would have thought that when everyone continued to dig towards the north of the mine, they would encounter a strange wall. Chapter 335. After Zhou Quan and the rest told their young master about the situation, he stared at the wall and pondered for a long time. Have all of you tried? You can't even dig 3 feet into the ground? Yun Shang looked at the hunters behind her, who were all sweating profusely. Yes, we have. Look at our shovels. We have changed a few pairs. I can guarantee that the stone of this wall is the hardest I have ever seen in my life. Zhou Quan was afraid that the young master would blame them for not doing things quickly, so he brought out the few pairs of shovels that had been dug out. Yun Shang took a look. Without exception, every tool was broken. All right, that's all for today. You guys prepare some food and water for me. I will be staying in the mine for 3 days. Remember, don't come in and disturb me if there is nothing important. Also, unless I look for you, don't pay attention to any movements in the mine. Yun Shang waved her hand and sent a group of hunters out. Zhou Quan and the rest did not know what Yun Shang's intention was, but what their young master said was the truth. No one dared to ask and obediently prepared the food and water, leaving Yun Shang alone in the mine. The mine returned to silence. Yun Shang sized up the wall. She had felt that this wall was unusual the last time, but unfortunately, she did not have the time to study it in detail. On the first day, Yun Shang was in the mine, repeatedly experimenting with all kinds of magic. She used the 4 magical elements of wind, earth, water, and fire respectively. Whether it was burning with fire, piercing with water, blowing with wind, or piercing with earth, she tried every method. However, the wall in front of him was extremely stubborn, and no magical element could cause the wall to change in the slightest. On the second day, Yunshang changed her plan. Since magical elements did not work, she tried to use the second combat technique of combining with the puffed egg to try to break the wall with monstrous strength. But even after using 500 kilograms of monstrous strength, the wall still did not move. On the third day, Yunshang decided that if she still could not find a way to solve the secret of the wall, she would use a magic array to temporarily seal the wall. She would try again in the future when her cultivation level improved. Failed again. Yunshang dejectedly withdrew the power of the Jade Marrow technique. The Jade Marrow technique was her last trump card, but even the mysterious Jade Marrow technique had no effect on the wall. Looks like I can only give up. Yunshang had to collect her emotions. She turned and left to meet up with Zhou Quan and the rest. Just as she walked out of the mine, she noticed a large pile of gravel at the entrance of the mine. When Tang Yuan's mages and mysterious people found this mine, due to time constraints, they directly set up a thunderstorm magic array at the entrance of the mine. The thunderstorm had the magical elements of the thunderstorm was similar to a bomb in the modern sense. Explosion? Why not try the magic of lightning? Yunshang suddenly thought of her own profound magic. Because the power of the thunderstorm vortex was too astonishing, Yunshang could only use it a limited number of times. After she entered Wushuan Everlasting Hall, she had never used this kind of magic again. Ordinary magic would not work. Perhaps under the effect of the water and fire magical elements, it could produce unexpected effects. Yunshang was wild with joy. She immediately turned around and rushed to the position of the wall. After walking around the wall, Yunshang used her hand to lightly hit the wall. Listening to the sound, she roughly identified the thickness of the wall, which was the weakest point. It's here. Yunshang first activated the Jade Marrow technique in her body. When the Jade Marrow technique came into effect, a jade-like translucent light appeared on Yunshang's right palm. That was the power of the Jade Marrow technique. As long as she had this level of power, even water and fire magical elements would not be able to hurt Yunshang's palm. This was the safest method that Yunshang came up with after countless practice in the magic tower of the Royal Magic Academy. She immediately raised her magic scepter and chanted. When the 2 soul stones on the bone enchantment scepter lit up, 2 magical elements, one red and one blue, appeared on Yunshang's fair palms. The red one was the aggressive fire magical element. The blue one was the relatively gentle water magical element. Among the 4 natural magical elements, fire and water were 2 completely different elements. Most mages were unable to use and control these 2 magical elements at the same time. But Yunshang, who possessed 5 magical spirits, was an exception. Her 5 fingers moved quickly. Under the effect of her fingers, the red and blue magical elements were like countless flexible water plants, dancing. They were like small tadpoles mixing with each other. When the water came into contact with the fire, only a piu-piu sound could be heard. The sound became more and more frequent. As Yunshang's fingers moved faster and faster, more and more of the fire and water magical elements merged together. There was a shocking repulsive force between the 2 magical elements. But under the effect of Yunshang's trillium hand, the repulsive force was dispelled by Yunshang's fingers once it was formed. From the initial repulsive force, they gradually merged and spun, gradually forming a spherical magic lightning vortex. Condensing an arcane magic lightning vortex consumed more than 50% of Yunshang's magical elements. Her forehead was covered with sweat. Raising her eyebrows, Yunshang secretly said in her heart, "Victory or defeat depends on this. Go. Arcane magic lightning vortex." When Yunshang's hand collided with the incomparably sturdy wall that had not been broken by any battle technique or magic, the wall did not budge at all. But as the arcane magic lightning vortex spun faster and faster, Yunshang injected more and more magical elements. A shocking scene happened. The wall began to tremble. At first it was only trembling, but later on, the wall was stimulated into pieces of stone debris. It looked as if someone was using a drill bit and crazily drilling into the wall. There's hope. Yunshang was pleasantly surprised. But at this moment she did not dare to relax. She kept replenishing the arcane magic lightning vortex in her hand while staring at the wall. Slowly more and more debris flew out and smashed onto Yunsheng's face. But Yunsheng did not dodge. She excitedly watched the hole in the wall slowly expand. On the wall, cracks similar to tree roots appeared. Oh no, my magical power seems to be running out. Yunsheng could feel that the magical elements in her body were being consumed little by little. This feeling was stronger than any previous time. But Yunsheng was at a critical juncture now, and she could not stop to take meditation water to replenish her magical power. I'll go all out. No matter what, I'll blast open this wall first. Yunsheng gritted her teeth. No longer caring about the depletion of magical power, she clenched the magic scepter in her hand and injected the last of her magical power into the arcane magic lightning vortex. Just when Yunsheng thought that she couldn't hold on any longer, Yunsheng's eyes lit up. Bang! The wall that hadn't been opened by anyone for who knows how many years exploded. The moment the wall exploded, the entire mine began to shake. Chapter 336. Countless rocks came crashing down from the top of the mine. Behind her, the mine was rapidly collapsing. Yunsheng did not expect that this wall was actually the inner wall of the mine. At this moment, a large stone slab came crashing down from the top of her head. Yunsheng's strength was exhausted, and she did not have a trace of magic power in her body. She could not dodge it in time. Her vision turned black. Yunsheng only heard a beast-like roar, and then she did not know anything else. The moment the mine collapsed, the hunters stationed in the mine also heard the sound of the mine collapsing. Zhou Quan hurried over with a group of hunters. However, by the time they arrived, the mine had already completely collapsed. The entrance had already been destroyed. Not to mention a human, even a dog would have a hard time entering. Oh no, young master is still inside. Zhou Quan was shocked by this sudden turn of events. His expression immediately changed. He ordered people to clean up the cave immediately and sent people to inform Yun Songlong and the rest. When Yun Songlong arrived, it was already 2 to 3 hours later. What happened? Where's Sheng? Looking at the messy mine and the surroundings, Yun Songlong's expression changed greatly when he did not see Yun Sheng's figure. Leader, we don't know either. This mine was still fine a few days ago. Young master was buried inside. Zhou Quan stuttered. Just as he finished speaking, Yun Songlong roared and rushed into the cave. Who knew that there was a figure who was even faster than him? That person grabbed Zhou Quan. What did you say? Yun Sheng. She was buried inside the mine? Zhou Quan was dumbfounded. The man in front of him was handsome, and his entire person emitted a powerful aura. This aura was different from Yun Songlong's. There was a noble air in his aura. Duke Baiming. Zhou Quan stuttered. He recognized the man in front of him. He was Yi Baiming, who had accompanied Yun Sheng to Wuxia city. He vaguely remembered that between Duke Baiming and young Master Yun, he seemed to be young Master Yun's retainer. Your Highness, please release him first. Zhou Quan, tell me, why is Yun Sheng alone in the mine? Didn't you send someone to tell me earlier that the mine has been emptied? Yun Songlong was also very worried that Yun Sheng was trapped in the mine, and it was unknown whether she was dead or alive. However, he knew that the more it was like this, the more he couldn't lose his composure. On one hand, he ordered the hunters to immediately find tools and deploy manpower. On the other hand, he asked Zhou Quan in detail about the whole situation. Zhou Quan told Yun Sheng about the discovery of the wall. Yun Sheng insisted on staying in the cave alone for 3 days and 3 nights. A few days ago, everything was fine, but in the afternoon, a loud noise suddenly came from the mine. By the time they arrived, the cave had already collapsed. His hands were stained with blood, but for the first time he actually felt fear. He thought of Yun Sheng's thin and weak body. She was only a magician. With so many boulders, did she still have a chance of surviving? No, she must still be alive. Again and again, he confirmed and denied. Zhou Quan, who was walking behind Yi Baiming, also faintly felt the hesitation of the man in front of him. Every step he took was very careful and heavy. He was worried that if he took another step forward, he would see a corpse that was smashed beyond recognition. Little wild cat, Nothing can happen to you. It's in front, this young master is on that wall. Under Zhou Quan's guidance, Yi Baiming finally reached the end of the mine. The area in front of them opened up and the three people hurriedly stood up. How is this possible? There was clearly a wall here? Where did the wall go? This young master is also gone. Zhou Quan hurriedly ran forward and looked around. He was certain that this was the place where he and this young master had found the strange wall earlier. But now there was nothing around. There were no corpses, no bloodstains. Other than the collapsed rocks around them, there was nothing here. Yi Baiming heaved a sigh of relief. But then, his gaze darkened and he picked up a piece of rock on the ground. Zhou Quan, look at that wall. Is it this kind of rock? Yi Baiming held a rock that was as sharp as a knife. Just by feeling it, Yi Baiming could confirm that this rock was very hard, comparable to any metal ore on the continent. It's this kind. Hey, why is it broken? Could it be that this young master found a way to break this wall? But we tried all of them earlier, and no matter how hard we tried, we couldn't break that wall. Zhou Quan touched his head with a look of disbelief. Yi Baiming turned over the rock and narrowed his eyes. The back of the rock was actually emitting a strong magical wave. Chapter 337. Yi Baiming clenched the stone. This is not only a wall, but also a magic array. Magic array? How can there be a magic array in the mine? Where did Sheng go? After discovering that Yun Sheng was not dead, Yun Songlong was relieved. But when he heard that Yun Sheng had triggered a magic array and her whereabouts were unknown, his heart was raised again. If I'm not wrong, this is a space-time magic array. The magic array has existed for a long time. Little Wildcat triggered the magic array. At this moment, I'm afraid she has already been transported to an unknown magic space. Yi Baiming held the stone tightly. The sharp stone pierced his skin and fresh blood dripped down. Little Wildcat, where are you now? Yi Baiming's eyes turned cold, and he repeated in his heart again and again. Somewhere. Pain, her whole body hurts. After an unknown amount of time, Yun Sheng woke up under the double encirclement of pain and hunger. The moment she woke up, Yun Sheng felt pain all over her body, as if she had been crushed. She discovered that there was a layer of small blisters on her hands, feet, and body. The cause of these small blisters was the environment she was in at this moment. Yun Sheng quickly realized that she was no longer in the mine. She recalled the moment before she fell into a coma. The wall shattered and then the entire mine collapsed. Just at the moment of the collapse, she seemed to have seen something behind the wall. What was it? A thought flashed through her mind. Magic array. She saw a magic array. It was very similar to the magic array she saw in the transportation area of the mine earlier. It was also a magic array that exuded a space-time magic aura. It was also this magic array that allowed her to luckily escape the collapse of the cave, and the misfortune of being crushed to death by the boulder. But it was also this magic array that brought her to this unfamiliar area. Yun Sheng composed herself and first looked at her body. Fortunately, other than the blisters on her body, there were no major injuries. However, due to the blisters, her original appearance was almost disfigured. She looked like a toad now. Yun Sheng didn't care much about it. If she could leave this place, she had plenty of ways to restore her appearance. However, if she couldn't leave this damned place where not even a ghost could be seen, it didn't matter if she restored her appearance or not. After confirming that she wasn't seriously injured, Yun Sheng looked at her clothes and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Due to the high temperature, she realized that most of the clothes on her body had been burned away. Only a few pitiful pieces of cloth were left, covering her vital parts. Yun Sheng's attire at this moment was comparable to that of a primitive man. The only fortunate thing was that the Shunnong medical bracelet, the beast language ring, and the magic scepter were still intact. Fortunately, there was no one else around. Yun Sheng was embarrassed. She wanted to take out new clothes from her storage ring to change into. But when she looked, she found that everything in her storage ring had been burned to ashes. Even the first few limitless purple gold cards were not spared. All the food and herbs were burned. What the hell is this place? The heat here was actually able to pass through the beast language ring and melt the supplies in it. This was the first time Yun Sheng encountered such a situation. After discovering the situation with the beast language ring, Yun Shang was even more suspicious. Licking her dry lips, Yun Shang thought to herself that the most important thing now was to find food and water. Yun Shang secretly tested it and realized that in such an environment, other than the fire element, her other major magic elements were so weak that they were almost non-existent. However, there was still some dark element left. Yun Shang felt a burning sensation under her feet. She activated the Jade Marrow technique. The Jade Marrow technique was originally a Taoist breathing technique. It had a calming effect to a certain extent. After adjusting her breathing, Yun Shang felt that the ground under her feet wasn't as hot as before. She then walked forward slowly. Gudong gudong gudong. The sound of boiling bubbles bursting could be heard. Liquid like lava flowed in the ditches on both sides. Streaks of unknown flames rushed out. Yun Shang had only walked for a while when she realized that the environment she was in was very harsh. After walking for such a long time, she didn't even find any plants or weeds, let alone animals. The environment here was even harsher than the desert. Yun Shang felt as if she had arrived at the mouth of an underground volcano. Other than lava and all kinds of dark flames, she didn't find anything else. If she continued walking like this, even if she didn't starve to death, she would die of thirst. She didn't know how long it had been since the cave collapsed. Yun Shang could imagine that at this moment, second uncle and Zhou Quan must be very worried about her. If she didn't go back quickly, everyone would go crazy. It was all her fault for being too confident in her own abilities and being blindly impulsive. This resulted in such an outcome. Yun Shang couldn't help but blame herself. The water in her body was slowly sucked dry by the scorching environment. Yun Shang still didn't find anything. There was no water, no food, no life. In this mysterious magical space, there was always bubbling lava and spewing flames. The roads here were winding and twisting. There were so many forks that one couldn't recognize them. After a long time, Yun Shang slowly started to hallucinate. Relying on her remaining willpower, Yun Shang walked forward step by step, hoping that she could find the exit at the next step. But countless times she was disappointed. Am I going to die here? Yun Shang smiled bitterly. She was not willing to accept this. The Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps had just been formed and the problem of the medical hall's herbs had not been solved. Father. Second uncle. Hunting Corps. Night Fox. When Yi Baiming's name appeared in Yun Shang's mind, she suddenly felt a strange fluctuation in the Dharma soul in her body. Little wild cat. A voice suddenly appeared in her mind. Was it a hallucination? At this time, how could she hear Night Fox's voice? At this time, he should be in the Jade Capital, being a free and unfettered prince. Yun Shang shook her head. It must be the lack of water and her overly tense nerves that gave her the illusion that she was in a desert. She was hallucinating. Little wild cat. Do you hear me? In Yun Shang's mind, this voice clearly appeared again. Night Fox? It's really you. Just like seeing an oasis in the desert, Yun Shang's originally drowsy mind immediately woke up after confirming that she heard that voice. But why would Yi Baiming's voice appear in her mind? Yun Shang looked around and didn't see Yi Baiming's figure. This was the first time she wished to see Yi Baiming so much. In this monotonous and despairing environment, she desperately needed someone to accompany her. Even if it was just a voice, it would be fine. You stupid girl. You. Yi Baiming's voice was filled with excitement and anger. But more than that, it was joy. Chapter 338. In fact, after he successfully resonated with Yun Shang's consciousness, Yi Baiming was overjoyed. He felt as if he had found a treasure and his heart ached. Why are you resonating with my thoughts? Yun Shang was still a little confused. Because of our Dharma souls. We once cultivated magic together and our Dharma souls come from the same body. As long as our consciousness resonates, we can sense each other's existence. Yi Baiming's tone was still reproachful. Then can you see where I am right now? So it was because of the Dharma soul again. Yun Shang couldn't help but feel like she was being peeped at. I can roughly see it. Yi Baiming coughed softly. He could see where Yun Shang was in her current sorry state. Yun Shang lowered her head and looked at her almost exposed body. Her face flushed red. On the other side of the mine, Yun Songlong, who was with Yi Baiming, also saw Lord Baiming suddenly cough violently. His handsome face was suspiciously red. Your Highness, you said just now that you have a way to find Shunger's whereabouts? Is that true? Yun Songlong had almost dug 3 feet into the ground to find Yun Shang these days. However, Yun Shang had completely disappeared. This made Yun Songlong almost go crazy. Yi Baiming was also very alarmed. However, this morning he informed him that it was very likely that he could find Yun Shang. Little Wild Kitten is safe for the time being. Yi Baiming's heart also eased a lot. That's good. How is her situation now? Yun Songlong treated Yun Shang as if she was his own daughter. Although his niece was still young, she had already become the backbone of Yun Songlong and the Heavenly Expedition Hunting Corps in the past 6 months. Yi Baiming coughed and thought of Little Wild Cat's current situation. Just now her face was full of anger and she looked like a bun. He could not help but smile warmly. He rarely saw Yun Shang so flustered and exasperated. In his impression, Little Wild Kitten was always overly calm. Now, it seemed that she was very cute when he saw her sullen expression occasionally. She's fine. It's just that her situation is a little bad. Yi Baiming didn't say anything else. He focused and connected with Yun Shang's thoughts again. Although their Dharma souls were inextricably linked, Yi Baiming wasn't sure that their thoughts could be 100% in sync. He tried dozens of times before he finally connected with Yun Shang. In this world, only Yun Shang and Yi Baiming could do this kind of special connection between their Dharma souls. However, this kind of connection couldn't be maintained all the time. Usually, they could only communicate for about 15 minutes each time, and only once or twice a day. You're not allowed to see what you shouldn't see. Tell second uncle not to be anxious. I will definitely find the way back. I will continue to move forward. I will contact you when I need to, Yun Shang warned Yi Baiming. Yi Baiming touched his nose helplessly. This wasn't what he wanted to see. Are you sure where you are now? Yi Baiming stopped joking. He could also see that although Yun Shang wasn't injured, her situation was very bad. Yun Shang had already told Yi Baiming about the items in her storage ring being burned. Even the items in her storage ring could be burned. One could imagine how bad the environment was. With Yun Shang's knowledge of modern geography, she even suspected that she was now thousands of meters underground in the boundless land. It seems to be underground, or at the mouth of a volcano. I seem to have sensed a different wave of magical elements. Let's not talk about it for now. Remember to take care of my second uncle, and the people from the Heaven Hunting Corps for me. Pay attention to Xian Wuji's movements in the Grand Supreme City. Yun Shang didn't know how long she had walked, but she felt that the surrounding environment seemed to have cooled down. She hurriedly bade farewell to Yi Baiming and walked forward quickly. Why is there a lotus pond in this place? Yun Shang had been searching for a long time, and her stomach was already rumbling with hunger. She didn't expect that there would be an unusually beautiful lotus pond in this scorching magical space that she suspected to be devoid of living things. In the lotus pond there was boiling hot lava. Yun Shang kicked a rock down. The hard rock fell, but before it could fall into the pond, it was burned to ashes by the scorching heat. The lava in this lotus pond seemed to be even hotter than the lava and flames that she had encountered along the way. The scorching environment did not affect the growth of the lotus flowers in the lotus pond at all. It was just that what grew in the lotus pond were not ordinary green lotus leaves. The color of the lotus leaves and stems was also fiery red like the lava here. There were about a dozen lotus flowers in the middle of the lotus pond. Most of the lotus flowers only had a few leaves, and there was only one lotus bud that was half open. The petals of the lotus bud were as bright as rouge and emitted a natural fragrance. However, it was also because of this lotus pond that the surrounding temperature dropped significantly. Looking at the plump and tender lotus leaves, Yun Shang's stomach, which was so hungry that it twitched violently. I don't know if it's poisonous, but it's better to be poisoned to death than to starve to death. Yun Shang swallowed her saliva and looked at the boiling lava. She mobilized the remaining wind magical elements in her body and aimed at the nearest lotus leaf. With a slash of the wind blade, the lotus leaf immediately broke out of the water and fell to the bottom of the water, bringing out a white and tender lotus root. After pulling out the lotus root, Yun Shang took a few steps back and started chewing on the lotus root without caring about whether it was dirty or not. When the lotus root entered her mouth, a sweet and refreshing juice that she had never experienced before flowed out instantly. Yunshang's dry and bitter mouth was immediately filled with sweetness. Yunshang felt the lotus root juice moisturizing every pore and hair on her body, and she couldn't help but click her tongue. In a few bites, Yunshang finished the tender lotus root that was as thick as an arm. Once the tender lotus root entered her stomach, not only was she full, even the scorching heat disappeared. This tender lotus root could obviously resist the scorching heat here. Not only that, when Yunshang secretly mobilized the magical elements in her body again, she realized that the magical elements that were almost depleted in her body were actually replenished in an instant. Even the magical elements that were suppressed earlier were vigorous. The most terrifying thing was that she actually realized that the Dharma soul in her body had increased by a full circle. It seemed that it was about to break through again. What grade of plant is this exactly? Yunshang only knew that the lotus roots in the pond in front of her were actually rare treasures. Based on her experience as a doctor, even if the grade of the lotus roots here could not be compared to the previous 9-leaf divine grade sage ginseng, it was at least a sacred grade or half divine grade herb. Moreover, there were more than 10 lotus roots in this pond. If she could bring back the lotus roots in this pond or cultivate them in the boundless land, the value would be even more shocking. Chapter 339. It's a pity that I can't even find a way to leave this godforsaken place. I'm afraid I can only use this pond of lotus roots as food to appease my hunger, Yunshang lamented. Her gaze landed on the only stalk of flower in the pond. She could faintly see the outline of a lotus seed. Yunshang's heart skipped a beat. Lotus seed. If she could wait until the lotus seed matured and harvest the lotus seed inside, wouldn't that be enough? Yunshang quickly made a decision. Hence, she did not walk forward blindly. Instead, she sat cross-legged on the spot and slowly digested the miraculous effects of the lotus roots in her body. At the same time, she waited for the lotus seed to mature. Time passed by slowly. There was no distinction between day and night in this mysterious space. According to the agreement between Yunshang and Yi Baiming, the two of them contacted each other once a day. Yunshang could roughly deduce that she had already spent 5 days in the magical space. The lotus in the pond had also gradually bloomed from its initial bud. The lotus seed inside had also grown quite a bit. Yunshang pondered. In another 1 or 2 days, the lotus seed would mature. In these few days she ate another stalk of lotus root. However, compared to the first time, she realized that the lotus root's effects were almost non-existent. It seemed that this miraculous herb could only be consumed once. However, on the day before the lotus seed matured, Yunshang had just finished her meditation when she heard a series of footsteps in the quiet mountain path. There's someone. Yunshang did not expect that there would be someone in such a desolate place. The footsteps got closer and closer. From the sound of the footsteps, Yunshang could determine that there were about 2 people. As she walked closer, she heard a crafty female voice. Brother Bupo, if you dare to leave me behind again, I will definitely tell Uncle Yuan and Aunt Yuan when I return to Grand Emperor City. Aren't you annoying? You're like a fly circling around me all day long. Why don't you follow Xian Wuji to Jade Capital? An impatient male voice sounded. Yunshang recognized the voices of the 2 people. They were Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi from Grand Emperor City. How did he meet them? Yunshang couldn't help but frown. Did Xian Mimi just say that Xian Wuji was going to the Jade Capital? Although Yun Songlong was still at the border because of her, Yunshang did not know why, but she felt a sense of unease. She was alone now. If the 2 of them joined forces, she would definitely not be a match for them. Fortunately, the blisters on her face had not healed yet. Coupled with her disheveled appearance, even if the 2 of them met her, they would not be able to recognize her. Yunshang simply stood up and walked out. After taking a few steps, he saw a man and a woman. It was Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi. Both of them didn't expect to meet a living person in such a place, so they were both shocked when they saw Yunshang. Why was there someone here? Who are you? Xian Mimi noticed that Yunshang was carrying a magic scepter. She immediately became alert. This place was very secluded. Even for them, it took a Herculean effort to reach this place. Mimi, don't be rash. Yuan Bupo was much calmer than Xian Mimi. He held Xian Mimi down. The two of them carefully sized up Yun Shang. Xian Mimi saw Yun Shang's naked body and then looked at her ugly face. Joy flashed across her face. If the girl in front of her was beautiful, she might have killed her immediately. However, she was an ugly girl. This made Xian Mimi very satisfied. Although Yuan Bupo stopped Xian Mimi, he was still very wary of Yun Shang. This time he came to the mysterious geocentric ancient smelt cave. It was a secret. As soon as he saw it, his face flashed with embarrassment and he turned his head away awkwardly. It turned out that Yun Shang's clothes were burnt into charcoal in the scorching environment. Apart from her face, the blisters on Yun Shang's skin had disappeared because she used the tender lotus root. Her skin looked crystal clear. Her figure was also very slim. Although her appearance was a little scary, her healthy figure gave Yuan Bupo a strange feeling. He felt a heat in his abdomen and did not know where to look. Shameless. Xian Mimi was glad that Yun Shang was ugly. At the same time, she also noticed that this female sorcerer's skin was unbelievably good. Moreover, when she got closer, she could smell a clear fragrance from her body. This fragrance was a special fragrance that was produced when Yun Shang ate the tender lotus root these few days. Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi obviously came prepared. Their clothes seemed to be made of a special beast's skin. In such an environment they were still intact. "Miss, you should wear my clothes first." Although Yuan Bupo did not know who she was, he still took off his clothes and passed them to Yun Shang. "Bupo, why are you giving her the icicle toad clothes? You spent a lot of effort to kill those icicle toads and made them from their skin." Xian Mimi raised her eyebrows and glared at Yun Shang when she saw it. Yuan Bupo was usually cold to people. Why would he be so nice to an ugly girl whom he met for the first time? This made Xian Mimi even more furious. Yuan Bupo had been preparing for a few years to enter the geocentric ancient smelt cave. In order to resist the heat wave underground, he went to the dangerous Ice Peak Island and killed a few level 7 icicle toads. Icicle toads were powerful magic beasts that were proficient in water magic. Although they were small, the icicles that they shot out could freeze a person instantly. At that time, Yuan Bupo was on the brink of death to obtain enough icicle toads to make this set of clothes. Who knew that he would give it to someone else? "It's just a set of clothes. Aren't you annoying? You're even more nosy than my mother. If you make any more noise, I'll throw you out," Yuan Bupo said angrily. He was really unlucky. When he left the Grand Emperor city this time, he did everything he could to get rid of Xian Mimi. Who knew that she would still pester him? If she did not make a fuss along the way, complaining about being tired and thirsty, he would not have wasted so much time rushing here. Yun Shang did not refuse. It was awkward for her to walk around in front of people like this. The clothes made of icicle toad skin were very soft. Yuan Bupo was about the same size as Yi Baiming. A set of clothes was enough for Yun Shang to wear as a dress. The loose clothes hung on Yun Shang's body. It made her skin look like jade and her legs look slender. She had an indescribable charm. Yuan Bupo felt hot in his throat as he looked at her. "Vixen!" Xian Mimi stared at Yun Shang and scolded her angrily. It could be seen that although the eldest daughter of the Grand Emperor city was unruly, she did not have any temper with Yuan Bupo. She was really afraid that Yuan Bupo would throw her out in anger. It was not easy for her to find out from her father that Yuan Bupo was leaving the Grand Emperor city for the geocentric ancient smelt cave. Her jade bone mermaid robe, which was immune to fire magic elements, was something that her mother had put in a lot of good words for. "Miss, who are you? Why are you in the geocentric ancient smelt cave?" Yuan Bupo looked at the magic scepter on Yun Shang's waist. Chapter 340. Yun Shang's magic scepter had 2 magic soul stones embedded in it. She was only an archmage. How could she break through the restriction outside the geocentric smelting cave and enter the cave with her abilities? Moreover, she looked like she had been in the cave for a few days. The geocentric smelting cave was the name of this place. Yun Shang thought to herself. She did not expect her guess to be true. Yun Shang had a better impression of Yuan Bupo since he was generous enough to give away his clothes. "I didn't want to be here either. A few days ago, I accidentally entered a cave and activated a magic formation inside. I was already in the cave when I woke up. I've been trapped inside for a few days and I've been looking for an exit. I only came here today because I heard people's voices. Yun Sheng was telling the truth. Yuan Bupo was no longer suspicious when he saw how calm she was. Yuan Bupo thought to himself, she doesn't look like she's lying. It's just that she's been in the cave for a few days. That's what I'm looking for, Yuan Bupo quickly asked. Miss, did you encounter anything in the cave? Or did you find a red lotus flower? There's nothing in the depths of the cave, but I've seen the lotus flower you mentioned. It's not far ahead. Yun Sheng knew that she couldn't hide it. Fortunately, she had already plucked all the lotus flowers in the pond a few days ago, leaving only the lotus flower with a bud. That's great. The ancient records are real. There's really a karmic fire lotus in the geocentric smelting cave. Yuan Bupo could not wait and immediately went to look for it. Sure enough, after a few steps, he found a karmic fire lotus standing gracefully in the lotus pond. However, in the time it took for Yun Sheng to leave, the karmic fire lotus that had yet to bloom had already bloomed. The karmic fire lotus that looked like a flame was waiting to bloom in the scorching lava. The lotus seed pod inside was bright red. The lotus seed pod was like a ruby that was crystal clear. Brother Bupo, are you saying that we can find the karmic fire beast with this thing? Xian Mimi looked at the lotus flower carefully. Other than the fact that its color was slightly different from ordinary lotus flowers, there was nothing special about it. In Grand Emperor City, there were many exotic flowers and herbs. There were dozens of types of lotus flowers. Among them there was no lack of treasures like colorful lotuses. Compared to colorful lotuses, this karmic fire lotus was very ordinary. What do you know? Your hair is long but your knowledge is short. The entire body of the karmic fire lotus was a treasure. Its tendons, stalks, and leaves were all saint-ranked herbs. Its roots, the karmic fire lotus, was an excellent medicine for purifying magic souls. However, the most precious part of it is its lotus seed. Yuan Bupo understood the karmic fire lotus very well. Yuan Bupo seemed to be worried about something as he did not continue speaking. Yun Sheng was watching coldly from the side. She already knew that Yuan Bupo was definitely waiting for the karmic fire lotus to mature. He wondered what kind of things would be attracted to the karmic fire lotus once it matured. He stared at the ruby-like lotus seed pod without blinking. The lotus head of the karmic fire lotus could bear the karmic fire lotus seed. This kind of lotus seed was also the favorite food of the karmic fire beasts that were rare in the mainland. Yuan Bupo did not know what kind of beast the karmic fire beasts were exactly. However, he heard that the karmic fire beasts were born as commander-level sacred beasts. When it matured, there was even a chance for it to break through and become a divine beast. Yuan Bupo was a summoner. However, as he was different from the summoners in Grand Emperor City, he could only form a contract with a beast once in his life. Therefore, before he matured, he had never formed a contract with a beast. The way he formed a contract with a beast was very special. It was not the usual magic space contract in the mainland. Instead, it was a contract with pleasure. Yuan Bupo was talented and proud. Naturally, he was unwilling to form a contract with an ordinary beast. Therefore, he spent a lot of effort to find out about the karmic fire beasts that were made from the king of beast kings. Brother Bupo, this woman's background is unknown. When they saw the karmic fire lotus, Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi had different reactions. Yun Sheng's understanding of Grand Emperor City was very limited. She did not know that her unintentional intrusion into the Earth's core smelted cave had directly led to a shocking change in Grand Emperor City. All of this was related to the origin of Grand Emperor City. The people of Grand Emperor City were mostly talented. Compared to the rest of the people in the boundless mainland, among the 30,000 people in the city, close to 80% of them were warriors, magicians, and summoners. The Xian and Yuan clans were the largest clans in the city. Their descendants' talents were even more shocking. However, there were not many summoners among them. They only took up about 10% of the population. According to the rules of Grand Emperor City, the successive castellans of Grand Emperor City were the most outstanding summoners from the Xian and Yuan clans. This was because the first castellan of Grand Emperor City made use of Dihong Song and his beast to create the legend of Grand Emperor City. Therefore, in the Grand Emperor City, There had always been a saying that only the strongest summoner and the strongest magical beast could truly play the Grand Emperor's 9 movements without either of them. However, since 500 years ago, there hadn't been a single talented summoner in the Yuan clan. On the other hand, the Xian clan had at least one outstanding summoner in their generation, all the way until Xian Wuji's father's generation. Yuan Bupe believed that his talent was much stronger than Xian Wuji and Xian Mimi. He had long made up his mind to become the #1 summoner in the Yuan clan in the past 500 years. Yuan Bupe did this out of selfishness. Firstly, he was not willing to accept a good-for-nothing like Xian Wuji as the castellan. Secondly, he knew that only when he succeeded as the castellan would he have the chance to let his eldest sister, Yuan Shahua, who had been banished from Grand Emperor City, return to Grand Emperor City one day. Back when Yuan Shahua was banished from the city, Yuan Bupe's mother missed her daughter day and night. This made Yuan Bupe determined that one day, he would abolish the old rules of Grand Emperor City. Of course, even Xian Mimi did not know about Yuan Bupe's plans. He would not tell Xian Mimi about his plans. Xian Mimi watched from the side with a greedy look in her eyes. Was that the karmic fire lotus that could lure out the karmic fire beast king? She recalled her father's advice when she was traveling this time. Mimi, remember this. After you leave Grand Emperor City, you must find a way to find Yuan Bupe. I heard that he might be in the geocentric smelting cave. Your brother is a disappointment. The future castellan position of the Xian clan depends on you. Xian Mimi was born in a place like the castellan's mansion. Naturally, she was not that naive. Although she and Xian Wuji were siblings of the same father and mother, Xian Wuji's reputation in the city had plummeted ever since his fiancée, Yuan Shahua, had broken off their engagement a few years ago. As a result, the city lord's mansion's reputation in the city had plummeted. In addition to the rise of the Yuan clan's prodigy, Yuan Bupe, there were rumors in Grand Emperor City that the Yuan clan would replace the Xian clan as the next castellan. This time, if Yuan Bupe really used the Dihong Song to contract the Hellfire Beast, it was certain that Yuan Bupe would become the future castellan. In the past, Xian Mimi still hoped that Yuan Bupe would marry her after he became the castellan. She did not expect him to confess his love to a lowly Yun clan youth. This made the narrow-minded Xian Mimi very upset. If I used the Dihong Song to contract the Hellfire Beast, Yuan Bupe would listen to me obediently. Xian Mimi thought to herself. Chapter 341. At that moment the three of them had their own thoughts. Yun Sheng watched from the side. With her sharp senses from being a healer in her previous life, it was not difficult for her to sense the tension between the two of them. Hey, why are you following us? Are you trying to get your hands on the karmic fire lotus too? Xian Mimi looked hostile. Miss, I'd like to go out too. However, I don't know the way without your company. There's no water and food in the cave. Wouldn't I die if I get lost? Yun Sheng believed that Yuan Bupe would not let her go easily before the karmic fire lotus was ripe. Although she could not figure out what the man and woman from Grand Emperor City wanted to do with the karmic fire lotus, since she was the one who discovered the treasure, she would not sit back and watch the treasure be taken away by someone else. Yuan Bupe thought to himself that the way in was indeed full of twists and turns. If he did not have the map beforehand, he would have gotten lost too. Moreover, he did not want to be alone with Xian Mimi. It would be more comfortable if there was another person. The three of them sat down with their legs crossed with their minds. Yun Sheng had gotten used to the temperature in the cave. Coupled with the icicle toad coat, she soon entered a meditative state. On the other hand, Xian Mimi looked nervous as she kept looking at the karmic fire lotus pond. After midnight, he heard a strange fragrance coming from the direction of the lotus pond. Inside the ruby-like seed pod, there were 8 lotus seeds sparkling like diamonds. It's ripe. Yuan Bupe's movement technique was the fastest. He flicked a gust of wind from the tip of his finger, and a magic element that looked like a wind blade instantly swept up the mature lotus. With a tap of his feet, he soared up high like a great rock, gliding several meters forward. His legs brushed against the churning lava, not fearing the terrifying temperature at all. Clearly, he had come prepared and was wearing a special protective suit. Yun Sheng was not in a hurry to attack. She frowned and watched the show from the side. Xian Mimi was also watching from the side. Her eyes shone with the longing of a young girl. Yuan Bupo did not know what to do next after the lotus was attacked. That's strange. Didn't they say that the karmic fire lotus's fragrance would attract the karmic fire beasts when it matures? Why is there no movement at all? Yuan Bupo was suspicious as he looked around. Xian Mimi was also unusually calm. She didn't immediately make a move. She knew that she was no match for Yuan Bupo. In terms of skills, even her brother, Xian Wuji, might not be a match for Yuan Bupo. It turned out that when the last karmic fire lotus was uprooted, the lava in the lotus pond, which was originally more than 10 meters in size, actually slowly shrank and sank. Like boiling water, the lava slowly disappeared, revealing a huge magic array at the bottom of the pool. It was an ancient magic array. Yunsheng, Yuan Bupo, and the others could not understand the seal script on the magic. There were no ripples of magic on the magic array. It was obvious that this was a magic array that had been deactivated for a long time. The three of them were all magicians, and at the same time they were also very intelligent. They all noticed that there was a small circular hole in each of the four directions of the magic array: east, west, north, south, southeast, southwest, northeast, and northwest. The size of the hole was exactly the same as the size of a karmic fire lotus seed. It was clear that the magic array would be activated as long as 8 karmic fire lotus seeds were placed into the 8 holes. The three of them were at a loss when they saw the sudden scene. Yunsheng was sent there by accident. Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi were guided by an ancient book to look for karmic fire beasts. They did not expect there to be another world at the bottom of the karmic fire lotus pond. What happened today was considered a coincidence. There were 2 conditions that had to be fulfilled in order for the magic array that was buried under the lava to see the light of day again. Firstly, the karmic fire lotus had been uprooted. Yunsheng had taken all of the karmic fire lotuses earlier. Secondly, the karmic fire lotus seeds had to be ripe and placed into the 8 holes. Oh no! Just when the 3 of them were in a daze, wondering if they should activate the magic array with the 8 karmic fire lotus seeds, a loud noise came from the other side of the cave. Yuan Bupo's expression changed. He immediately ran to the other side of the cave. The teleportation magic array that he had used to enter the cave earlier had disappeared. The surrounding atmosphere became strange. The 3 of them were left with only one way out. The entrance has been sealed. We're trapped here. It seems like we can only try this magic array if we want to get out, Yuan Bupo said. Yunsheng and Xian Mimi did not object. The 3 of them leaped down and stood on the magic array. Yunsheng was sure that the magic array was the biggest magic array that she had ever seen. It looked like a gigantic millstone. Yuan Bupo dug out the 8 karmic fire lotus seeds and placed them into the magic array. After a series of noises that sounded like a key opening a door that had not been repaired for a long time, a bright light shone from the magic array. The bottom of the pool sank. The 3 of them felt like they had stepped on air. They felt something pressing against their eyes and their bodies were sinking rapidly. After a long while, they finally felt that they had stabilized. While the 3 of them were still feeling dizzy, a series of gurgling sounds were heard, and a black shadow jumped out. The black shadow was so fast that the 3 of them did not notice it earlier. They realized that they were standing in a gigantic magic array. Brother Bupo, look! Is that the karmic fire beast? Xian Mimi exclaimed. She covered her mouth and pointed at the demonic beast in front of them. It was a demonic beast that was the size of a giant elephant. Its body was covered in the most terrifying magic elemental suppression. The feeling was even more terrifying than the demonic beast suppression that Yunsheng felt from the centipede ant general earlier. The demonic beast's body was huge. It looked like the lion that Yunsheng had seen before. However, it was 100 times more ferocious than the lion. Its fur was covered in dancing flames. There was a ring of auspicious fire cloud around its neck. It looked up and its eyes bulged. The fangs in its mouth were spitting flames. Its tail was in the shape of a hollow flame. It curled up behind its back and there were 5 sharp claws on each of its back limbs. At that moment, the demonic beast was squatting on the magic array. Although they had no idea what it was, they were sure that it was not the karmic fire beast. How could a level 9 karmic fire beast have such a powerful suppression? The few demonic beasts in the exquisite beast tower were in a frenzy. I'm the ancient divine beast, fire-devouring Swanee. You ignorant ants dare to trespass into the sacred place of the fire elves. Leave now. The demonic beast opened its mouth and spoke in human language. Demonic beasts were different from humans. Demonic beasts at the level of holy beasts started to have the ability to think like humans. When they reached the peak of holy beasts, they would have the ability to transform into human form. Only then would they have the ability to speak human language and transform into human form. As soon as this magical beast spoke, the faces of the 3 people present turned green. Thank you matey and you D for your tips. Thank you everyone for your votes. At that moment the same thought flashed across their minds. Divine beast. Chapter 342. It was a divine beast. What a bullsh *T legend. Yuan Bupo almost vomited blood. What level 9 karma fire beast? It was a divine beast that could crush them into dust instantly. To the people of the boundless land, a divine beast was equivalent to the archmage god, the martial god among the martial artists, and the emperor Zao among the summoners. Even the city governor of the Grand Emperor City only had a holy beast at the peak of the holy beast. The powerful demonic beast's aura engulfed the 3 of them. Compared to the Tao Wu's aura, the aura that Yun Sheng encountered earlier on was nothing. The Tao Wu seemed to be about the same age as the Earth's core smelted cave. It must be tens of thousands of years old. Under its aura, Yun Sheng felt as though she was petrified and could not move. At the crucial moment, Yun Sheng quickly calmed down. She recalled the detailed information about the Tao Wu-type demonic beast in her mind. It was rumored that there was a lion-shaped Tao Wu among the demonic beasts. It liked to grow with lotuses and lotuses grew with every step it took. It turned out that the pond of karma fire lotuses came about because of that. Yuan Bupo also felt that his body was stiff and could not move. He gulped and said, Lord Tao Wu, we didn't know that you lived here. Please forgive us if we have disturbed you in any way. I'm willing to offer you 8 ripe karma fire lotus seeds. Please let the 3 of us live. Who knew that the Tao Wu would spit out 2 streams of flames from its nostrils that were the size of 2 doorways? Lotus seeds. Ignorant ants, don't mention the lotus seed to me anymore. If it wasn't for those damn karma fire lotus seeds, why would I have a toothache? Toothache? The Tao Wu looked furious. Yun Sheng looked at its mouth and saw that the left side of its mouth was swollen. No wonder the Tao Wu was indifferent when it knew that its favorite karma fire lotus seeds were about to ripen. It was because of a toothache. Lord Tao Wu? I'm a doctor. If you have a toothache I can take a look at it. Yun Sheng mustered her courage. Just as Yuan Bupo, who was standing aside, wanted to stop them, he was pulled back by Xian Mimi. She mouthed something at Yuan Bupo. What she meant was to let the ugly woman treat by and that was a divine beast. If it suddenly showed its might, it would burn them all to ashes. It was better to take advantage of the time when the ugly woman was treating Bai and escape through the magic array. Yun Sheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry at the thought of seeing the teeth of a mythological beast. But right now this was all she could do. The Tao Wu seemed to be tormented by the toothache. It thought for a moment like a human and rolled its eyes. It stretched out its front paw and grabbed Yun Sheng. And I'll allow you to take a look for me. But if you have any ill intentions, I'll burn you to death with a single breath of fire. In fact, it also realized that Yun Sheng's scent was very pleasant. It was very similar to the scent of its favorite karmic fire lotus. The consultation fee is a valuable thing. For example, do you have any divine herbs or sacred tools? The lowest you can give me is 1,000,000 or 800,000 purple gold. Yun Sheng demanded an exorbitant price. This time she suffered a great loss in the Earth's core furnace cave. Most of the herbs were melted, and there were also a few purple gold cards. Fortunately, she had given most of the cards to second uncle. Otherwise, she would become the poor Yun Sheng again. Moreover, the Tao Wu was a divine beast. It must have a lot of wealth. Only the heavens knew how heavy the Tao Wu's breath was. She almost died in its mouth just now. This divine beast looked silly. If she didn't take advantage of it, she would feel sorry for herself. The consultation fee you mentioned, I don't have any of it. I'm not like those greedy dragons. I don't like shiny things. The Tao Wu tilted its head and thought for a long time. It sadly realized that it was a very poor divine beast. It even despised itself a little. If you don't have consultation fee, then you can be my mount and get a discount. I won't scheme against you. 10 years will do. Yunshang started to have ideas about the Tao Wu. Chapter 343. Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi's mouths were wide open, and the expression on their faces could no longer be described as simple shock. Only Yunshang could think of using a mythical beast as her medical fee for 10 years in the entire boundless land. That won't do. I'm a mythical beast, and you're just an archmage. I can't lower myself to be your mount. However, if you become an archmage in the future, I can consider it. It was rare for Tao Wu to not get angry. He was a fire elemental magical beast, and compared to the other 3 natural magical beasts, his temper had always been fiery. However, because Yunshang had helped him heal his teeth and relieved him of the pain he had suffered for 10,000 years, he was surprisingly good-tempered towards Yunshang. How about this? I don't like to owe people favors. You said that you wanted something precious. Right now, I only have one precious thing. If you have it, just take it. Tao Wu's eyes bulged as he looked around Yunshang. The other party's appearance was ruined, but her jade-like eyes that could still shine in the dark night revealed a calmness and composure that did not match her age. Just the aura she had when facing him just now was enough to be comparable to some of the legendary peak powerhouses in the boundless land. The vision of a mythical beast was amazing. How could Tao Wu not see that although Yunshang was just an archmage, she had a rare multi-elemental magic soul? The rarest thing was that other than the aura of a fairy, there were at least 2 other mysterious forces on her body, especially the jade bracelet on her hand, and the strange force that was faintly fluctuating from her body. Tao Wu could not help but think, could it be that he had been guarding here for 10,000 years, waiting for this female mage in front of him? After saying that, Tao Wu moved a few steps away. The magic array that had been under its body was exposed. This magic array was very similar to the one that Yunshang and the rest used to enter Tao Wu's territory, but there were some differences. The entire magic array was emitting dense fire elemental magical elements. This is the power of the origin of fire. It is a sacred fire seed left behind by the former spirit king of fire. It is called spirit fire. For a few tens of thousands of years, I've always been guarding this place while waiting for someone with intent to come here and obtain this wisp of elven karmic flames. Unfortunately, no one has entered the geocentric cave until now. As a proud divine beast, it had been trapped underground for tens of thousands of years for the sake of the hellfire. His loneliness and helplessness could not be described in words. Are you saying that you want me to try and obtain this elven hellfire? Yunshang's eyelids twitched. The elven hellfire is the fire that all fire mages have dreamed of for a long time. It will be purified as the level of your magic increases. When you become a mage deity, you can even use it to kill everything in the world. Tao Wu's words made the few people present feel tempted. Xian Mimi couldn't wait any longer and said, Madam Bayan, I'm also a magician. My magic realm is even higher than hers. Perhaps I'm more suitable than her to obtain the elven hellfire. Humph, greedy ant. Since you want to try, go ahead. Tao Wu saw the greed in Xian Mimi's eyes, but it did not stop her. Mimi, don't be rash. Yuan Bupo immediately advised Xian Mimi. Both he and Xian Mimi had a high magic cultivation base. However, even they could not see through the so-called elven magic formation. They had no idea what level the magic formation was. However, a magic formation that could be guarded by the divine beast, Tao Wu, must be extraordinary. Yunshang had her concerns too. She had the same thought as Yuan Bupo. Ants, you better think carefully. I'll only give you one chance to choose. Bayan looked like he was watching a good show. In reality, the geocentric cave's existence was not as secretive as the legends made it out to be. Tao Wu had stayed underground for so many years, and there would be some ant-like humans who would come here. Those who were timid would be devoured by Tao Wu. Those who were brave enough would try to obtain the elven hellfire's tinder. Unfortunately, none of them succeeded. Those who failed, Tao Wu snickered coldly. I'll try. Yunshang thought for a moment and quickly made her decision. Xian Mimi immediately took a step forward. I'll try before you. There was only one chance to obtain the precious elven hellfire. If Yunshang took it first, it would be too late. Xian Mimi walked into the magic formation as soon as she finished speaking. However, there was no reaction from the magic formation after she walked in. How can this be? Where's the elven hellfire? Xian Mimi looked around. Stupid ant. You're cunning. The hellfire won't accept you. Get lost, Tao Wu roared. The fire elven hellfire was the purest tinder in nature. Only those with pure minds could pass the hellfire's test. Xian Mimi did not even have the basic qualification. Naturally, the magic formation would not be activated. What hellfire? How can I not trigger the hellfire? Xian Mimi did not give up. She stomped hard on the magic formation under her feet. She wanted to crush the magic formation. Unexpectedly, the elven hellfire magic formation, which was originally still, spewed out a flame that was as tall as a person. The flame was ferocious. The fire was strong enough to melt any kind of hard or on the continent. Xian Mimi was not prepared for it. Her face was hit by the flame. She let out a cry. Her entire head and face were on fire. If it was not for the defensive equipment on her, she would have turned into a fireball. Mimi, get down immediately. Yuan Bupo was also shocked. Xian Mimi was a member of the Xian clan in Grand Emperor City. He could not sit and watch her being burned alive. Xian Mimi rolled and crawled. Tao Wu leaped into the magic formation and kicked Xian Mimi out. Xian Mimi rolled a few times on the ground. Her body was covered in blood and mud. Although she was treated with magic medicine, her appearance was terrifying. Her originally pretty face was like a smashed persimmon. It was a mess of flesh and blood. Yunshang could clearly see the bones on her face. Idiot! How dare you challenge the hellfire? Tao Wu looked at her with disdain. This time Xian Mimi really became an ugly girl through and through. Brother Bupo, my face, my face. I want father to destroy this place. Xian Mimi felt a sharp pain on her face. Mimi, don't cry. I will bring you to Grand Emperor City later. The city lord will definitely have a way to heal your face. Yuan Bupo did not expect the elven hellfire magic formation to have a temper like a human. The people of Grand Emperor City can't heal her face. That's the elven hellfire. It won't be easy to heal the damage caused by the hellfire. Yunshang did not have much sympathy for Xian Mimi's injury. The people of Grand Emperor City had killed so many Yun army brothers and crippled Yun Songlong's hands. They had been dispirited for so many years. However, as a doctor, she could give them a reminder. Chapter 344. You ugly woman, you're gloating. I knew that you wouldn't dare to enter the fire of elves formation. Otherwise, your ugly face would definitely be burned by the fire of elves until it's 1,000 times uglier than mine. Upon hearing that her face might not be cured, Xian Mimi's first reaction was not to blame herself for her foolish actions, but to regret not letting Yunshang enter first. Mimi, don't say anymore. Apply some ointment first. I'd like to try entering the fire of the elves formation too. Yuan Bupo was not frightened by Xian Mimi's condition. Any mage would give their all to try the fire of the elves formation if they encountered a top-notch fire magic element. Although Yuan Bupo could not find a suitable warsong beast this time, it would be a worthwhile trip if he could obtain the fire of the elves formation. Miss, can you let me try first? Yuan Bupo was much more generous than Xian Mimi. Yunshang was not in a hurry to return the favor. She nodded and agreed. Yuan Bupo walked into the fire of the elves formation. As soon as he stepped in, circles of fire of the elves emerged from the magic formation. It was different from when Xian Mimi entered. A large amount of fire of the elves formation soon formed a fire circle and surrounded Yuan Bupo. The divine beast Tao Wu watched from the side and thought to itself, this fella is much more powerful than the ant-like human just now. It's just that he's still lacking. Yuan Bupo felt his skin burning as soon as he came into contact with the fire of the elves. He was the most outstanding genius in Dihong Yuan's generation. Although he was a mage, his parents and other elders in the clan were strict with him since he was young. They requested him to strengthen his physique while practicing magic and the elves' formation. That was the difference between Dihong City and other places in the mainland. They thought that a good physique would bring a mage a better physique. It would also give them an advantage when practicing magic. Therefore, Yuan Bupo's physique was on par with an ordinary warrior. Even so, the fire of the elves was extremely painful. The fire was tricky. It seeped into his skin bit by bit, as if it was going to burn all the blood in his body dry. Yuan Bupo immediately felt his mouth dry up. He felt like he was going to explode. He didn't panic and sat down cross-legged in the middle of the fire circle. He pulled out the purple flute from his waist. He aimed his lips at the flute hole, and a melodious flute note flowed out from his lips. The melodious sound of the flute drifted into the ears of the crowd and Bai, unlike the sound of nature. The Dihong song was indeed a marvelous song. Under its influence, the heat of the karmic fire was greatly reduced. Yun Sheng glanced over and saw that the flames in the Hellfire magic array seemed to have shrunk a bit. Good lad. You actually know how to use the flute to expel the karmic fire. Bai An watched from the side and could not help but shake his huge head. However, just when Yuan Bupo thought that he was about to subdue the karmic fire magic formation, the karmic fire in the magic formation grew a little taller all of a sudden. Boom! A flame that was on par with Yun Sheng's fiery explosion flew towards Yuan Bupo. The purple flute in Yuan Bupo's hand paused, and he left the magic formation by instinct. Yuan Bupo stumbled as he retreated. There was still fear on his face. It's a pity that you've only passed the first test. Although you have a pure heart, you can't resist the fear of the karmic fire. Bai An sighed. The karmic fire of the elves was spiritual. It needed a master who could accept it completely. Due to what happened to Xianmimi earlier, Yuan Bupo was subconsciously afraid of the karmic fire. That was why he failed at the last step. Yuan Bupo was ashamed. But don't be too disappointed, lad. I can see that you're quite talented. If you can continue your Dihong song, I believe that you won't be inferior to your ancestors in the future. Bai An had lived for tens of thousands of years. He had met the couple who founded the Dihong city. You and I are fated. After you leave the Earth's Core Karst Cave, head to the Icefire Trench. You'll find a warsong battle beast that belongs to you there. Bai An's words made Yuan Bupo, who was initially depressed, feel better. A battle beast that Bai An personally taught must be extraordinary. It was worth it this time. You're the only one left. You've seen what happened to the other two. Do you want to try again? Bai An looked at Yun Sheng. In fact, Bai An was looking forward to Yun Sheng the most. This female sorceress seemed to have the lowest cultivation level among the three of them. She did not seem to care about the other two's setback at all. Yun Sheng nodded. She took a deep breath and held her magic staff tightly. Then, she slowly walked into the karmic fire formation. Yun Sheng walked into the magic formation. Unexpectedly, the magic formation did not react at all. Haha, see that? You're the same as me. The karmic fire of the elves doesn't care about you at all. Xianmimi, who had medicine on her face, mocked. Her smile froze on her face. At that moment, the magic formation seemed to have been poured with gasoline. The entire magic formation was ignited like a brazier. The fire was at least 10 times more intense than when Yuan Bupo had entered the formation earlier. She's dead. She's dead. Xianmimi cursed viciously. However, Yun Sheng's expression remained unchanged. She did not even lift her magic staff. The fire spread rapidly on her body like wild grass in a prairie. The fire engulfed Yun Sheng's flesh and blood. Her skin cracked piece by piece while the veins in her body exploded. The pain was enough to break a person down. Even so, Yun Sheng still wore a smile on her face and allowed the fire to engulf her. Bai An's beast eyes shone with a strange light. Yuan Bupo opened his eyes wide. His handsome face was filled with shock. Hee, what a smart little girl. She learned from your lesson and didn't resist the karmic fire at all. She planned to accept the karmic fire's baptism wholeheartedly. However, it's not enough to resist the first karmic fire's trial. Bai An wagged his tail and said with interest. As soon as Bai An finished his sentence, the karmic fire gathered in the magic formation. A sacred fire fairy with fiery red hair and an enchanting figure appeared inside the magic array. The sacred fire fairy's entire body was covered in blazing flames as she looked at Yunsheng, whose body was in tatters. "Ignorant ants! How dare you disturb my sleep? You'll have to pay with your life for this." The sacred fire elf's body was like a tower. She opened her arms and a few fire dragons flew out from her hands and pounced on Yunsheng. It looked like it was about to swallow Yunsheng in one gulp. Yuan Bupo stood aside and watched in fear. The female sorcerer did not dodge at all. Was she not afraid of death? Was it really worth sacrificing her life for the tinder? Yunsheng looked calm on the surface. However, when she saw Yi Hualong appear, she was a little nervous. Just when she was hesitating whether she should dodge the fire dragon's attack, Yi Baiming's deep voice echoed in her mind. It turned out that the two of them had agreed that it was time for their consciousness to resonate. Yi Baiming did not expect Yunsheng to encounter a situation that was much more dangerous than before in just one day. "Little wild cat, activate your Dharma soul secretly. Don't dodge," Yi Baiming reminded Yunsheng. Yunsheng heard him and clenched her teeth. She did not dodge anymore and activated her Dharma soul secretly. Chapter 345. A five-colored radiance was released from her body. The fire dragon swallowed Yunsheng in one gulp. Just when everyone present thought that Yunsheng would not have a chance to survive, Yunsheng suddenly changed her mind. The hellfire fire dragon let out a painful roar, and its body exploded with a boom. A five-colored radiance pierced through the fire dragon's chest like a sharp blade. The fire spirit's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly, and a gorgeous smile appeared on her face. She shook her body and turned into a ball of flames, drilling into Yunsheng's magic scepter. A third soul stone appeared on Yunsheng's magic scepter. Everyone looked over and saw that there was a graceful figure inside the magic array. Yunsheng was like a female elf walking out of the forest in the moonlight. She was beautiful and lively. In the fire, Yunsheng's skin fell off quickly. She was like a phoenix bathing in fire. Her new skin was as tender as a baby's. She was like a fire elf in the fire. She was beautiful and enchanting. Her eyes were as black as fine black jade. Her new skin was as tender as a baby's. The most different thing was that there was a flame-shaped brand on her forehead. That flame-shaped brand made Yunsheng lose some of her youthfulness and become more enchanting. The fire elves were the most enchanting and passionate elves among the four elves. Yunsheng was still unaware of the changes on her body. She touched her forehead subconsciously and realized that there was a flame-shaped brand on her forehead. "There's an extra thing?" Yunsheng frowned. "Looks like I should trim my bangs. This thing is too eye-catching." If the fire elves knew that this female sorcerer despised their precious fire elf brand, they would probably fight Yunsheng to the death. "It's you," they said at the same time. Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi looked as if they had seen a ghost. They pointed at Yunsheng. The female sorcerer whose clothes didn't cover her body, and whose face was covered with ugly blisters was actually the young master that he had met once before. Yunsheng's long hair fluttered in the wind. Her beautiful eyes were beautiful. Her facial features were exactly the same as before. The two of them then realized that she was a man in disguise. "You're Yun Songlong's." Yuan Bupo stared at Yunsheng's face. He then looked at her body. She was still wearing his loose robe. Her beautiful legs were swaying in front of him. He suddenly felt heat coming out of his nose. "You must have snuck in on purpose. You." Xian Mimi wanted to tear Yunsheng's face apart. "Yun Songlong is my second uncle. I'm his niece." Yunsheng touched her face. She realized that she had earned enough this time. Xian Mimi was so angry that her eyes were on fire. Why was she burned beyond recognition after entering the magic formation? Why was Yun Songlong's niece so beautiful? She was even lucky enough to be recognized by the karmic fire. "Is this the benefit you're talking about when you're poor? Why don't I feel like I'm recognized by the karmic fire?" Yunsheng's words almost made Tao Wu faint from anger. "Ignorant human, I'm not going to argue with you." Tao Wu rolled his eyes and spat fire from his mouth. The fire was fierce, but Yunsheng only felt a little warmth. Her skin did not even turn red. Her body only felt a little warmth. Could it be that people who have been baptized by the karmic fire are not afraid of fire? Yunsheng finally realized the magical effect of the fire. Not only are you not afraid of fire, But as long as it's a fire seed, no matter if it's true fire or fire magic element, it won't cause any harm to you. Tao Wu was annoyed. He had seen bad people, but he had never seen such an ignorant person who looked down on the karmic fire of the elves. Not only that, you're a healer. The pills refined by the karmic fire of the elves will be at least 1 grade higher. Hearing this, Yunsheng raised her hand and adjusted the fire magic element in her body. Unlike before, the fire magic element that appeared in her hand was colorful like a karmic fire lotus. The magic element contained in it was at least 2 or 3 times richer than before. Yunsheng secretly checked the magic element in her body, and was surprised to find that her cultivation was about to break through again. The appearance of the 3rd soul stone meant that she was about to break through to become a master mage. Although he was complaining, Yunsheng's appearance still made Feng Wu put down a huge burden. Back then, as one of the 4 magical beasts with natural attributes, he had a duel with someone because he was competitive. Unfortunately, he lost. In the end, he kept his promise and was trapped in the Earth's core furnace for tens of thousands of years. He could only leave when he found someone who was recognized by the karmic fire of the elves. He did not expect to wait for tens of thousands of years. The karmic fire has found its owner. It's time for me to leave the Earth's core furnace. Little girl and that guy, both of you have been baptized by the karmic fire of the elves. You're considered to be my fated people. I'll give you some advice. The 8 karmic fire lotus seeds that you obtained earlier will be very beneficial to your cultivation in the future. Remember to treasure them carefully. That's all I have to say. I hope we can meet again in the future. The Bayan roared at the sky. Its body leaped into the sky and turned into a ray of fire. This ray of fire was extremely cold. It directly broke open the lava cave and soared into the sky. Tao Wu's figure was hard to find in the blue sky. After Tao Wu left, Yunsheng and the other 2 were speechless. Xian Mimi tugged on Yuan Bupo's sleeve tightly. She was wary of Yunsheng. However, Yuan Bupo had a complicated expression. He would secretly look at Yunsheng from the corner of his eyes. The 3 of them followed the path that Yuan Bupo took earlier and walked out of the cave. Along the way, Yunsheng noticed that the karmic fire of the elves' magic formation had dimmed completely. The lava in the entire Earth's core furnace had sunk and the flames had disappeared because of the karmic fire of the elves' core. The cave was no different from an ordinary underground furnace. After walking for about 3 to 4 hours, a cave entrance appeared in front of them. Yunsheng walked out of the cave entrance. She noticed that the sky was already dark. The 3 of them were at the foot of an unknown mountain. The Earth's core furnace's entrance was hidden. Yuan Bupo spent a lot of effort to find the entrance. Brother Bupo, bring me back to Grand Emperor City quickly. My face is going to be ruined. Xian Mimi touched her face. Although she applied some herbs, her face did not look any better. She was afraid that her face could not be saved like what Yunsheng said. She only wanted to return to Grand Emperor City as soon as possible. Yuan Bupo took a long look at Yunsheng. After finding out about Yunsheng's identity, Yuan Bupo could not calm down for a long time. She was Yun Songlong's niece. Yun Songlong was the main culprit who caused his elder sister to suffer for so many years. Logically speaking, he should be disgusted with Yunsheng. He even thought that if Yunsheng was a man, he would definitely teach her a lesson. However, she was a woman. Moreover, she was a very beautiful woman. As they walked, Yuan Bupo looked at the beautiful figure in front of him. He suddenly had a strange feeling. He hoped that there would be no end to the secret cave. If that was the case, he would be able to walk with her forever. Chapter 346. Yuan Bupo was shocked when he realized what he was thinking. What was wrong with him? Was he sick? When he was in Hong City, he did not discriminate between men and women. Countless girls in the city tried to be nice to him, but he ignored them all. But now, what was going on with this heart-pounding heartbeat? Yes, he must be sick. It was Yunsheng who spoke first. We're out. Your friend's injury will be incurable if it's not treated soon. Let's go our separate ways. After saying that, she didn't even turn back and walked straight ahead. Wait, you. Yuan Bupo felt that his tongue was not working well. He stuttered for a long time before asking, "What's your name?" This was the second time they had met, but he didn't even know the other party's name. Why is he asking for my name now? Yunshang grumbled in her heart. However, seeing that she was still wearing his clothes, she reluctantly told him her name. Yunshang, Yuan Bupo muttered to himself. He thought about it and took out 4 karmic fire lotus seeds. Feng Wu had mentioned earlier that the lotus seeds were beneficial to their cultivation. However, he did not know that Yunshang had consumed a large amount of karmic fire lotus roots in the past few days. The plump and round lotus seed lay quietly on Yuan Bupo's hand. His breathing quickened. Xian Mimi, who was standing aside, widened her eyes. Brother Bupo, why are you giving her the lotus seeds? It's none of your business. I can give my things to whoever I want, Yuan Bupo insisted. Xian Mimi said and looked at Yuan Bupo. She realized that something was wrong with him. Brother Bupo. Xian Mimi suddenly understood something. Her limbs turned cold. Yuan Bupo liked Yun Songlong's niece. Give it to her? Yunshang did not notice the strange atmosphere between Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi. Yunshang wanted the karmic fire lotus seeds. Since Yuan Bupo was being generous, she did not hesitate. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Yunshang simply accepted it. When she took the lotus seed, her finger gently brushed across Yuan Bupo's palm. Yuan Bupo felt his heart clench and his breathing quicken. Brother Bupo, let's go. Xian Mimi was shocked and angry. She felt that she was about to lose Yuan Bupo. Yuan Bupo remained silent until Yunshang disappeared without a trace. He then took a step forward reluctantly. Yunshang walked for most of the night and finally arrived at the nearest town around dawn. She asked around and found out that she was still near the border of Zhou State. She bought a set of clothes in the town and changed into them. After a short rest, she immediately rushed to Southern Cliff Town. Second uncle must be waiting anxiously in town. Also, Xian Mimi had said that Xian Wuji had gone to the Jade Capital, which made Yunshang very uneasy. Yunshang's return made the Heaven Expedition Hunting Corps in Southern Cliff Town overjoyed. Young master, you're finally back. When Zhou Quan saw Yunshang, he was overjoyed at first. However, a hint of worry appeared on his face soon after. Yunshang looked around and found it strange when she did not see Yun Songlong. Where's second uncle? Logically speaking, second uncle should still be in Southern Cliff Town. Something happened in the Jade Capital. Second uncle rushed back. Zhou Quan's words made Yunshang's expression change slightly. Did Xian Wuji make a move in the past few days? What happened? Yunshang's heartbeat quickened. She was afraid that some bad news would come. Zhou Quan stuttered and could not say a complete sentence for a long time. Tang Yu caused trouble. Yi Baiming walked in. Tang Yu. Yunshang was not in a good mood when she heard the name. When Zhou Quan saw Yi Baiming, he tactfully retreated. It was that prodigal son again. Yunshang could not be bothered with his life or death. However, she thought about it again. In a place like the Jade Capital, if it was a normal matter, the Yun residents would definitely be able to settle it. Why would she need to personally rush back with Yun Songlong? Yunshang understood her second uncle. Although he had left the Yun residence after falling out with old Master Yun because of the Yun family army, he still remembered everyone in the residence. Zhou Quan was unwilling to say it because he was afraid that Yunshang would be unhappy. Yi Baiming carefully sized up Yunshang. After not seeing her for a few days, the little wild cat was different again. If the little wild cat from before was like a clear spring, then the current her was more feminine because of the fairy hellfire. Yi Baiming looked at Yunshang's forehead again and noticed that there was a row of freshly cut bangs on her forehead. I still prefer your hairless appearance. Yi Baiming raised his hand and brushed Yunshang's bangs aside. When he saw the karmic fire symbol on Yunshang's smooth and round forehead, a wisp of pleasant surprise flashed through his eyes. It was indeed the hellfire of the fairy hellfire. His little wild cat did not disappoint him. Yi Baiming's fingers were icy cold. When he touched her forehead, he felt itchy. Yunshang quickly covered her forehead and glared at him. Don't touch me. Yi Baiming glanced at the icicle-toed clothing at the side. Throw it away. Why throw it away? That's the icicle-toed clothing. It's hard to find. When Yunshang left the cave, she did not have any clothes. Yuan Bupo did not have any intention of asking for the clothes back. Yunsheng originally planned to modify the clothes. It could be considered a treasure. I don't like the smell of other people on you. Yi Baiming snatched the clothes overbearingly and threw it away without hesitation. Yunsheng was flustered and exasperated. When Yi Baiming saw Yunsheng stomping her feet, the displeasure in his heart dissipated a little. Due to the connection between their consciousnesses, he had seen Yuan Bupo's reaction to Yunsheng earlier. How could he let other men covet his woman? He could not even look at her. What's going on with Tang Yu? Yunsheng was scared by Yi Baiming's stare. She could only ask Yun Songlong about the reason for his departure. Although she did not like Tang Yu, the matter involved her second uncle. She was afraid that it was not a simple matter. That brat never changes. A few days ago he got drunk and caused trouble on the streets with a group of playboys. He raped a woman. Who knew that the woman's background was not simple? It involved a well-known hunting troupe in Zhou State. A few days after Yunsheng went missing, news came from Yujing. What kind of hunting troupe? Even the Marshal St. General's residence could not suppress them? Yunsheng looked at Yi Baiming's serious expression. Only then did she know that Tang Yu had caused a lot of trouble this time. It's an old hunting troupe, Wolf's Fang. At the same time, it's also one of the few A-class hunting troops in Zhou State. Yi Baiming reported the name. Even though she had not been a hunter for long, Yunsheng knew how terrifying an A-class hunting troop in Zhou State was. As the saying went, civilians do not fight with officials. However, this did not make sense in the hunting troupe in Zhou State. After all, the hunting troupe in Zhou State was very influential. In Yujing, if an ordinary citizen got into trouble, the first thing they would think of was not the government but the hunters. Although hiring hunters would cost some money, their efficiency was much better than hiring the government. Chapter 347. The whole story of Tang Yu's incident was similar to what Yi Baiming had said. Tang Yu was a pervert and had defiled many women in the past few years. Yun Songxue spent some money to get rid of those people and kept it a secret. He had been scolded harshly by Yun Ba because of the Oriole incident, and was punished to stay in the residence for 3 months to reflect on his mistakes. He had just been released a few days ago. However, he still did not change. Especially when he knew that his second uncle was not in the Jade capital, he became even more impudent. The woman he had forcefully snatched was originally from an ordinary family. After he had raped her, Yun Songxue had planned to give her a status and carry her into the Yun residence in a sedan chair in order to keep the peace. However, the woman had a strong temper and was unwilling to do so. That night, she hung herself on a tree outside the Yun residence. By the time the guards in the residence found her, the woman had already stopped breathing. When the guards of the Yun residence saw her, they hurriedly told old General Yun. When the woman's family knew about it, they immediately brought people to the Yun residence to make a fuss. This incident had caused a commotion in the city. Tang Yu was so frightened that he did not dare to leave the residence. He had been fooling around in the past, but he had never killed anyone. Yun Songxue had planned to use his power to get rid of those people. However, he did not know that it would be better if he did not do so. The woman was 15 years old this year, and her father was a scholar with a little reputation in the city. She also had a fiancé whom she had been in love with for many years. They had been betrothed when they were young. That man had left the Jade capital a few years ago and joined the Wolfang hunting corps. He even had a good position in the Wolfang hunting corps and was a B-grade hunter in the corps. That man's fiancée was humiliated and committed suicide outside the Yun residence. When he heard the news, he could not get rid of his anger and went to the Yun residence to force them to hand over Tang Yu. How could Yun Songxue hand over her precious son? She ordered the guards in the residence to beat up that hunter. When Yi Baiming said this, Yunsheng already understood. Hunter squads valued glory the most, especially the A-rank hunter squads. Most of them valued reputation and would take good care of every single member of the squad. This time, not to mention the fact that someone was injured, even if the relative of a member was humiliated, the hunting corps would step in. So in the end, this incident turned into a dispute between the entire Wolfang hunting corps and the residents of Yun? Why didn't old General Yun do anything? What Yun Shang found strange was that with Yun Ba's temperament, wouldn't he stand out at such a critical juncture? After all, this time, Tang Yu had offended the hunters who had no regard for military law, not the Yun army. Even if old General Yun wanted to intervene, he couldn't. Minister Chan joined forces with a few other civil officials in the imperial court to sue both the Yun residents and Tang Yu. Yi Baiming couldn't help but sigh. The memorial had a total of 30,000 words. It listed all of Tang Yu's misdeeds over the years, including how the residents of Yun had shielded her. No matter how domineering Yun Ba was, he was speechless in the face of such an interrogation in the imperial court. It was a pity that he had a clean reputation and was a senior official of Zhou state for 3 generations, a first-class lord, but in his later years, he had encountered such a disaster. After Yun Shang heard this, she felt a sense of sadness in her heart. No matter how Tang Yu's incident was resolved this time, the residence of Yun Ba had lost its reputation. It was already an ironclad matter that the residence of Yun had declined and its reputation had been tarnished. If Yun Ba and Yun Songxue were willing to hand over Tang Yu, there might be a chance for things to turn around. However, the residents of Yun would never hand over Tang Yu. The entire incident is full of loopholes. Tang Yu was set up by someone, Yun Shang said lightly. It wasn't that she had never been to the Marshal Saint General's residence. The guards at the entrance were very strict. Even in the middle of the night, they would never allow a weak girl to be hung on a tree outside the residence. In addition, she had just found out that Xian Wuji had also gone to the Jade capital. She felt that the entire incident sounded suspicious. It's no longer important whether it was a setup or not. What's important is what you plan to do. This is a muddy water. Yi Baiming narrowed his eyes and looked at Yun Shang. A wild kitten was indeed a wild kitten. She had only heard it once, but she had already seen through the loopholes. Let's return to the Jade capital first. Yun Shang didn't make a decision immediately. When Yun Songlong returned to the Jade capital, a portion of the hunters and the elders had already returned with him. After he rushed back to the Jade capital, he felt that there was something wrong with the way the commoners looked at them. Just as he arrived at Wuning Alley, he heard a melodious sound coming from the general's residence. Outside the residence of Yun, there was a coffin. Dozens of commoners in mourning clothes were crying and wailing. Some even burned paper money outside the residence of Yun. The gates of the general's residence were tightly shut, and a few white lanterns were forced to be hung outside. Not a single guard could be seen outside. The residence of Yun was also shrouded in gloom. Waves of crying and wailing could be heard outside the residence of Yun. Such a situation had been going on for several days. Everyone in the residence of Yun had to take a detour from the back door when they wanted to go out for errands. Even so, they couldn't avoid being pointed at and gossiped about. After the incident with the young master, the entire residence of Yun was under a lot of pressure. In these few days, there were many people quitting their jobs using various reasons such as physical discomfort and old age. Even many of the retainers that the old master had provided for in the residence of Yun had packed up their belongings and left quietly. The old general had yet to fall, but the residence of Yun Songlong was already on the verge of collapse. When the general's residence was still prosperous, those snobbish people had racked their brains trying to sneak into the residence of Yun Songlong to beg for a living. Now that the residence of Yun Songlong was in trouble, they couldn't wait to cut off all ties. Inside the residence, Uncle Yun stood guard outside Yun Ba's room with a worried expression. Ever since the day the old master came back from court and kicked the young master until he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, he had been locked up in the training room. The old master didn't move an inch when they delivered food and water, and they all left. Uncle Yun tried to persuade him a few times, but he was all chased out by the old master. Bang! A rock was thrown through the wall and rolled to Uncle Yun's feet. There was a piece of paper tied to the rock. Uncle Yun didn't need to look to know what was written on the paper. It was full of insults directed at the residents of Yun. From the young master to the old general, if the upper beam isn't straight, the lower beam will be crooked. The lower beam will be crooked. All kinds of nasty words were directed at the old master alone. Did these people forget who led the army to fight when Zhou state was in turmoil and the people were displaced? Who was the one who emptied the entire residence of Yun Songlong's wealth to buy military provisions to support the front lines? Uncle Yun sighed and lowered his head to pick up the rock on the ground. Just as he bent down, he saw a pair of shoes in front of him. The shoes were covered in dust. Uncle Yun raised his head to look. When he saw Yun Songlong clearly, he excitedly shouted toward the training room, "Old master, the second young master is back." After the incident at the residence of Yun, the third miss held a grudge against the old master for kicking the young master. For the past few days she hadn't cared about the old master's daily needs. Only then did Uncle Yun send a letter to the second young master. In the training room it was still silent. "I've already asked someone to contact the leader of the Wolfang Hunting Corps through the Hunting Union," Yun Songlong said in a deep voice. Before he rushed back to Jade Capital, he contacted the hunting branch at the border. On one hand, he wanted to ask the branch to keep an eye on his niece Yun Shang's safety. On the other hand, he wanted to contact the Wolfang Hunting Corps through the Hunting Union, hoping to minimize the incident at the residence of Yun. If it wasn't for the fact that the Sky Expedition Hunting Corps had saved so many villagers recently, causing the reputation of the Hunting Corps to rise, as well as Yun Shang's elder token, the Sky Expedition Hunting Corps, which was only a newly formed hunting corps, would not have the qualifications to talk to the Wolfang Hunting Corps. The Hunting Union had also just sent news that the Wolfang Hunting Corps members could meet together. But they had to bring along Tang Yu, the culprit. This was the main reason why Yun Songlong rushed back to the residence of Yun without stopping. Yun Songlong had good intentions, but who knew that just as he mentioned it, he heard a cold snort behind him. "Second brother, you are so vicious. Yu is your biological nephew, and you want to push him into the tiger's den with your own hands." Yun Songlong walked over with Tang Yu and a few well-equipped hunters. The moment Yun Songlong returned to the residence, Yun Songshua's spies reported the news to Yun Songshua. The news of the Sky Expedition Hunting Corps making a great contribution at the borders of Zhou State and saving hundreds of villagers had already spread to the Jade Capital a few days ago. Yun Songshua thought that since Yun Songlong was now a regiment commander, he might have some say in the Hunting Union. Since he had returned to the residence, he must have a way to help Tang Yu. Thus she immediately brought people over, who knew that the moment she entered the courtyard, she would hear Yun Songlong saying that he wanted to hand Tang Yu over. She was immediately enraged and questioned him sternly. "Vicious? Third sister, even now you still want to protect that little bastard? A life for a life. If the emperor commits a crime, he will be punished the same as the commoners. He caused someone's death. Doesn't he have any responsibility?" Yun Songlong couldn't believe that Yun Songshua was still so stubborn. He was too disappointed in Yun Songshua. "Second brother, Yu is in the wrong, but he didn't personally kill anyone. He's young and doesn't know any better. Shouldn't you give him a chance to turn over a new leaf? You keep saying that you want to hand him over, but you're actually biased. If it was Yun Shang, that wretched girl, would you be willing to hand him over?" Yun Songshua was even more furious when she heard this. When he heard Yun Songshua calling Yun Shang a wretched girl, Yun Songlong felt a surge of anger in his stomach. For Tang Yu's matter, he could only abandon Yun Shang, whose fate was still unknown. He had rushed back with all his heart, but what awaited him was such an unreasonable tantrum. If it was Shang'er? "Yun Songshua, are your words even human? She's your niece, big brother's biological daughter. How can she be compared to your bastard son? My niece saves the dying and heals the injured. She never kills the innocent." Yun Songlong was furious. Yun Songshua was speechless. When Tang Yu saw that second uncle had made his mother speechless, he was even more afraid. "Mother, I don't want to leave the residence. Didn't you see those people outside? They're so ferocious. If I go out, they will definitely kill me." Tang Yu's appearance did look a little miserable. These few days, he was so frightened that he didn't dare to leave the residence. Furthermore, those people from the Wolfang Hunting Corps sneaked into the general's residence from time to time. His grandfather, who had always been his protective umbrella, not only kicked him this time but he also almost kicked him to death. He completely disregarded his own safety and allowed those people to come and go in the residence. Tang Yu was so frightened that he couldn't sleep well. When he heard that he was going to be handed over, he was so frightened that he almost peed. You'll be good. Mother will never let anyone bully you. Don't be afraid. Even if I have to use 10,000 pounds, I will hire someone to protect you. Don't worry, just wait for 5 more days and the people from the Bloody Hand Tycoon will be back. By then, you don't have to be afraid of anyone. Yun Songshua looked at her son with heartache. These few days, this child was so frightened that he even lost a few pounds of meat. Yun Songshua, who did you hire? You actually hired people from the Bloody Hand Tycoon? Do you still think that the Yun residence's reputation isn't bad enough? Yun Songlong's mind was blown. The Bloody Hand Tycoon was a very special organization in the Boundless Continent. Its nature seemed to be similar to the Hunting Corps. In the name of receiving commissions, it could complete any mission. These missions included killing and robbing. Under certain circumstances, they could even kidnap and invade. There was nothing that they wouldn't do. In order to complete their missions, the people from the Bloody Hand Tycoon could be said to be unscrupulous and despicable. Chapter 349. Yun Songlong had already realized that Yun Songshua's hiring of the Blood Hand Tycoon, when the Yun residence was facing such a huge crisis, was undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire. The scariest thing about the Bloody Hand Trench was that no one knew the origin of the Bloody Hand Trench, and no one knew how many people they had. People only knew that once the Bloody Hand Tycoon was hired, its people would complete the mission. No matter if it was a commoner or even a noble, the Bloody Hand Tycoon would complete the mission without exception. Since the Bloody Hand Tycoon was so mysterious, the reward it demanded was also very special. It didn't accept gold coins, but it demanded the other party to complete a condition of equal value as the reward. If the employer couldn't complete the task, the Bloody Hand Tycoon's people would take revenge at all costs. Within Zhou State, there was once a wealthy family who hired the Bloody Hand Tycoon to kill his competitor due to a business dispute. However, after killing his competitor, the Bloody Hand Tycoon suggested that the wealthy family use his entire fortune in exchange. That wealthy family naturally didn't agree. However, on the second day, his entire family of 63 people, including all his servants and livestock, were all killed. Not a single one was left alive. Since then, the Bloody Hand Tycoon's notoriety quickly spread throughout the Boundless Continent. There were many similar incidents. The Bloody Hand Tycoon was the most notorious assassin organization in the continent in recent decades. Therefore, Yun Songlong panicked when he found out that Yun Songshua had hired the Bloody Hand Tycoon. It was easy to dodge an open spear, but hard to defend against a hidden arrow. Even Yun Songlong didn't dare to provoke the Bloody Hand Tycoon's people. He didn't expect Yun Songshua to hire the Bloody Hand Tycoon without discussing with her family. Songshua, how dare you hire the Bloody Hand Tycoon's people behind my back? Yun Ba rushed out of his room. It had only been a few days, but Yun Ba looked as if he had aged several years. His originally light gray hair had turned white. Father, you can't blame me. These days, those people have been causing a ruckus outside the residence. Yuer hasn't had a good rest for many days. The Wolf Fong Hunting Corps isn't to be trifled with. I only invited the Bloody Hand Tycoon's people to threaten them. Yun Songshua continued to quibble. Yun Songshua didn't tell the Yun family's father and son that she had even prepared for the worst. If the Wolf Fong Hunting Corps still didn't rest, she would let the Bloody Hand Trench's men kill the Wolf Fong Hunting Corps' captain. Nonsense. Have you ever thought about whether or not you can fulfill Bloody Hand Tycoon's conditions? Yun Ba let out a long sigh of disappointment and frustration. He didn't expect that Yun Songshua would cause an even bigger mess while he was in seclusion trying to think of a solution. At most, we'll just give him more treasures and not gold coins. Our Yun residence also has plenty of things for him to choose from. Yun Songshua didn't feel that he had done anything wrong. How long has it been since you sent out the request? Is it too late to revoke it? Yun Songlong also blamed himself endlessly. If he had rushed back earlier, perhaps Yun Songshua would not have acted rashly. Seeing that her father and Yun Songlong, who had always remained calm even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of them, had ugly expressions, Yun Songshua realized that she had caused a huge disaster. It seemed like the bloody hand tycoon she had provoked was even more troublesome than the Wolfang hunting corps. It's already too late. When I woke up this morning, I discovered that there was an extra card at my bedside. Yun Songshua hesitated and took out an extra card from her sleeve. It was a gold-plated invitation card. It was squarish and had 4 golden tassels hanging from the 4 corners of the invitation card. It was made of a special metal and looked no different from an ordinary invitation card from a wealthy family. But the cover of the card was a bloody handprint the size of an adult's palm. That bloody handprint emitted a special smell that was like blood, and also like a fragrance. Just by smelling it, one would feel flustered. The Bloody Hand Tycoon's card. This card represented that the Bloody Hand Tycoon had already accepted Yun Songshua's deal. If they were to break the contract now, they would still face the crazy pursuit of the Bloody Hand Tycoon. Early this morning, Yunba frowned. Although he had been secluding himself in the training room these few days, he was still aware of everything that had happened outside. There was no lack of experts among the hunters from the Wolfang hunting corps that had barged into the Yun residence. These people, just relying on those third-rate hunters that Yun Songshua had found, was simply not enough to resist them. Every time those people wanted to barge into Yun Songshua and her son's courtyard, Yunba would warn them. The aura of a martial saint was still very shocking. Even if he did not step out of the house, he would still scare the hunters away. But early this morning, Yunba did not discover anyone barging into the general's residence. Could it be that there was a martial saint expert who was not inferior to him in the Bloody Hand Tycoon? Father, since things have come to this stage, the only way out is to settle the matter of the Wolfang hunting corps before the Bloody Hand Tycoon arrives. Tang Yu must go and apologize this time. Yun Songlong insisted that Tang Yu go with him to the Wolfang hunting corps. One matter at a time in case the Yun residence was attacked from both sides. When the time came, it would be even more difficult to deal with. No, grandfather, Yu does not want to go. Tang Yu did not expect that in the end, he still had to meet the people from the Wolfang hunting corps. Tang Yu, you are a man. Why are you crying endlessly? Yunba had heard how Yun Songshua indulged his son, and insulted Yun Sheng when he was in the room just now. Looking at Tang Yu's useless appearance, he thought of Yun Sheng's calm appearance during the free medical consultation. Why was it that they were all descendants of the Yun family, but they were so different from each other? There is no need to talk about this anymore. Songlong, bring Yu to the Wolfang hunting corps. I will deal with the matter of the Bloody Hand Tycoon later. Although he was very disappointed in Tang Yu, Yunba could not harden his heart and watch Tang Yu be killed. Yun Songshua was still arguing, but Yunba glanced at her coldly. Songshua, you have disappointed me too much. You are not allowed to have any contact with Yu these few days. Men, take her away. If anyone wants to help Third Miss during this period, immediately banish them from the general's residence and never hire them again. It was only now that Yunba realized how wrong it was for him to leave the matters of the Yun residence to Yun Songshua all these years after such a drastic change. Amidst Yun Songshua's discontent and Tang Yu's wails, the two of them were taken away. The hunters that Yun Songshua had invited were also chased away by Yunba. Uncle Yun, investigate the servants and hangers-on who left the general's residence during this incident and blacklist them. I want to make it difficult for them to establish themselves in Zhou State in the future. Also spread some fake news. I think there must be a lot of spies in the Yun residence these days. Yunba had also calmed down after staying in the training room for a few days. Thanks to Liuli, Yu and Modi for their tips. Chapter 350. In the imperial court, Yunba felt helpless in the battle of words between the old officials. This time, the emperor of Zhou State was also watching coldly from the sidelines. These people were all waiting to see the fall of the Yun residence. He wanted to let these people know that as long as he, Yunba, was alive, the Yun residence would never fall. Didn't you go to the southern border of Zhou State? Why did you come back? Yunba looked at Yun Songlong with some anger in his heart. His good son had established the hunting corps on his own initiative, and went to the southern border of Zhou State without his knowledge. That place almost took his life back then. If the people of Grand Emperor City knew that his hand had recovered, They would take revenge even more crazily. What will come will come. Father, have you investigated the matter clearly? Was that girl really killed by you? Although Yun Songlong hated Tang Yu for being a disappointment, he still understood his nephew's nature very well. The few times he had abducted women, it was mostly verbal teasing. However, this was the first time he had used force. Isn't it all because of that group of scoundrels? He drank for a long time that day and I can't remember the details. I only remember that when he woke up, it was already too late. Yun Ba had also seen the coffin placed at the door. A 15 to 16-year-old flowery girl who was indeed beautiful was forced to her death by his own grandson. If it were him, he wouldn't be able to take this lying down. How confident are you about the Wolfang hunting corps? It's not convenient for me to accompany you. If necessary, I can let Uncle Yun accompany you. Yun Ba sighed. He was forced to the point that he had nothing to say in the imperial court. In the end, it was the Emperor of Zhou State who spoke. The Wolfang Hunting Corps was an A-class hunting corps. In the early years, they had assisted the military in transporting food and weapons, and even guarded the city. They definitely couldn't fall out with the Wolfang Hunting Corps because of Tang Yu. The Emperor of Zhou State's meaning was very clear. In the end, Yun Ba could only agree that no matter how the Wolfang Hunting Corps wanted to deal with Tang Yu, he wouldn't interfere. The most suitable person for this matter was actually Yun Songlong, who was a hunting corps soldier. I understand. Uncle Yun should stay in the residence and help you. I'll bring some brothers from the hunting corps over. Master Zong also came back with me. Where's that stubborn girl? What? She's still not willing to come to the general's estate. Yunba said, but he did not mean what he said. He shot a few glances behind Yun Songlong. Such a big incident had happened in the Yun residence, yet that child still refused to come. He must really hate the Yun residence to the core. Something happened to Sheng'er when she was at the border, so she was delayed. Yun Songlong hesitated for a moment before telling Yun Ba what had happened in the southern realm. What? You said she was trapped under the mine? How is it? Are you hurt? How could you let a half-grown child stay in the cave alone? Yun Ba's heart burned with anger when he heard this. Sheng'er is not an ordinary child. She has the ability to protect herself. She is safe for now. I have already sent word that she will return to the Jade Capital in a few days. Yun Songlong looked at his father's reaction and laughed inwardly. His old man was the one who did not mean what he said. Yun Ba's expression softened. Only then did he relax. The father and son talked about the situation in the Jade Capital. In a private residence in the Jade Capital. From the outside, it looked like a very ordinary residence. Before and after the lantern was lit, a figure slid down from the eaves like a gecko. Like a drop of water dripping down from the eaves, he silently landed in the room. Sitting in the room was the young city lord of the Grand Emperor City, Xian Wuji, whom he had not seen for a few days. The figure was wearing a scarlet robe that covered him from head to toe. There were no gaps except for a few holes where his eyes, mouth, and nose should be. Young city lord, everything has been done according to your instructions. Now we just have to wait for the fish to take the bait, the red-robed man said. I heard that Yun Songlong has returned to the Jade Capital. Things are getting more and more lively. This time you have done well. You have not wasted my years of support for the Bloody Hand Tycoon. Xian Wuji played with a medicine bottle in his hand. Originally, he wanted to poison Yun Ba after entering the Jade Capital. How could he have known that things weren't as simple as he thought? Although Yun Ba was a military general, he was very cautious in his work. His food and clothing were all taken care of by an old servant in his residence, Uncle Yun, and he never left it to others. Xian Wuji used all kinds of methods, even letting people sneak into the Yun residence as retainers and servants, but he could not do anything. However, even someone as sinister as Xian Wuji did not give up on his plan immediately. He sent people to spy on the people in the Yun residence. Very quickly he found out that there was a huge flaw in the Yun residence. That was Tang Yu, that ignorant and incompetent playboy. As expected, he only needed to do a little trick to catch Tang Yu in the wrong. He then ordered people to secretly approach Yun Songxue and threw out the Bloody Hand Tycoon. As expected, the mother and son pair fell for it. Outsiders did not know that the Bloody Hand Tycoon was an organization that the Grand Emperor City had nurtured over the years. More than 50% of the Grand Emperor City's huge expenditure came from the Bloody Hand Tycoon. Don't worry, young city lord. However, young city lord, I just received news from the city that young Miss Mei Mei was seriously injured and was just sent back by young Master Yuan. The member of the Bloody Hand Trench respectfully replied. Useless thing, only knowing how to die for men. Don't worry about her. The city lord will take care of her. In these few days, keep a close eye on the Yun residence. If there is any movement, immediately report to me. Xian Wuji waved his hand impatiently. The members of the Bloody Hand Tycoon left silently. Xian Wuji looked at the medicine bottle in his hand. This time no one could save the Yun residence. After traveling day and night, finally, Yun Sheng and Yi Baiming returned to the Jade capital 3 days later. This day was also the day that Yun Songlong escorted Tang Yu to negotiate with the Wolf Fang Hunting Corps. The location of the negotiation was chosen by the Hunting Corps. They chose a relatively secluded tavern in the city. This tavern was also one of the taverns under the Hunting Corps of the Jade capital. It was also the place where the hunters drank or made private deals. Yun Songlong received the news that the Wolf Fang Hunting Corps' commander and vice-commander, as well as the injured B-grade hunter, would be present. In order to show his sincerity, Yun Songlong brought Tang Yu out early to the tavern. In order to avoid hurting the innocent, a closed today sign was hung outside the tavern. Don't speak later. If you say the wrong thing again, even second uncle will not be able to protect you. Yun Songlong knew that Tang Yu would only cause trouble. At this moment, a few people arrived at the entrance of the tavern. They were dressed very ordinarily, but just by looking at their footsteps and the way they entered the tavern, one could tell that they were not ordinary customers. There were 3 of them, 3 hunters from the Wolf Fang Hunting Corps. Chapter 351. The one walking at the front should be the leader of the Wolf's Fang troop, Song Lang. He was a burly warrior. Behind him was a heavy crossbow that was almost as tall as a person. The crossbow was black in color, and it was shining with a light that was not inferior to the sun. The one in the middle was a female hunter, and an extremely outstanding one at that. She was not even 30 years old, and was at the most attractive age for a woman. She had brown hair and held a magic scepter in her hand. There were 4 magic soul stones embedded on the magic scepter. Behind the female hunter was a male hunter who looked a little pale. Among the 3 of them, he was the youngest. When he saw Yun Songlong and his niece sitting in the middle of the tavern, the male hunter's eyes almost spat fire. He subconsciously pressed on the scabbard on his waist, but his hand was pushed away by the female mage beside him with her magic scepter. When Yun Songlong was sizing up the 3 people from the Wolf's Fang troop, Song Lang and the deputy leader of the Wolf's Fang troop, who was also the female hunter Huanu, were also observing Yun Songlong. When they realized that the other party only brought a hunter as an assistant to negotiate, that there were no ambushes near the tavern, and that the martial sage of Zhou State, Yun Ba, was not nearby, the 2 of them relaxed a little. At the same time, their impression of Yun Songlong was much better. It was rumored that Yun Songlong, one of the 2 heroes of Zhou State's military, was a righteous and upright person. Looking at him now, it was indeed so. Even though they were on bad terms with the Yun's residents, the Wolf's Fang troop still avoided Yun Ba's reputation. Leader Yun. Song Lang walked forward and cupped his hands as a form of greeting. The beginning of the negotiation between both parties seemed to be quite harmonious. Leader Tsang. Yun Songlong also stood up and bowed. Deputy Leader Hua, don't stop me, I want to kill that bastard. Just as the 2 of them were greeting each other, the young hunter suddenly broke free from the magic scepter of the female mage beside him, and his hand went to his waist. The young male hunter's attire was a little special. Most of the martial artists in the boundless continent liked to hang their swords on their waists, but on his waist, there was a row of small knives and daggers that were only the length of a finger. With a flick of his wrist, a silver light flashed and 5 to 6 concealed daggers flew towards Tang Yu. The way he shot out the concealed weapons was extremely fast. It was obvious that he was an expert in this area. Every concealed weapon was wrapped in a layer of dou qi. 5 to 6 of these daggers, linked together, were all aimed at Tang Yu's vital acupoints. If Tang Yu was really stabbed, blood would definitely splatter on the spot. On the other hand, Yun Songlong was unhurried. His hand was several times faster than the dagger. He picked up Tang Yu and the 5, 6, 8 hidden weapons missed their target. The hidden weapon pierced the wall of the tavern, and suddenly 5 or 6 knife marks appeared on the wall. After Yun Songlong dodged the dagger, he threw Tang Yu back to his original position. The entire process was smooth and fluid. If one were to look at it from the side, it would seem as if Tang Yu's but had never left his seat. If Tang Yu hadn't been so frightened that his eyes had rolled back, no one would have realized what had just happened. Song Lang and Huanu, who were at the side, also looked calm on the surface. However, at this moment their hearts were in turmoil. Back then, Yun Songlong was considered a top figure in Zhou State. Even Song Lang and the others, who were hunters, avoided Yun Songlong's name. Previously, there was a rumor that Yun Songlong had abandoned the army to become a hunter after being crippled for many years. His originally crippled hands had miraculously recovered. However, Song Lang and the others didn't really believe it. They thought that it was impossible for a broken hand to recover. Even if it recovered, his skills would definitely be greatly reduced. Therefore, this time when they heard that Yun Songlong had stepped forward to resolve this matter, Song Lang and the others still had some thoughts of testing him. After testing, they immediately realized that Yun Songlong's skills didn't deteriorate compared to back then. In fact, they seemed to have improved. Song Lang pretended to be angry and said, "Lu Hao, who allowed you to make a move? Don't be presumptuous in front of Commander Yun." "It's fine. This must be Brother Lu. This matter is also Tang Yu's fault." Yun Songlong smiled indifferently. Yun Songlong sneered in his heart. What a good Wolfang hunting corps, they were also cunning enough. Huanu's cultivation was much higher than Lu Hao's. How could she not be able to stop her impulsive subordinate? Tang Yu, who was at the side, wanted to cry but had no tears. He was really scared to death. Since we agreed to discuss this matter, let's get straight to the point. This matter originally had nothing to do with our Wolfang hunting corps. However, Lu Hao is a very promising hunter in our group. Commander Yun, you should know that when a member of your group is in trouble as a commander, you must stand up for him. Song Lang had already found out Yun Songlong's bottom line, so he straightforwardly spoke of the purpose of this trip. "Commander Song is right. Tang Yu, this matter started because of you. Brother Lu is also here today. Just tell us directly how you want to deal with this little bastard." Yun Songlong ordered someone to bring wine. When Lu Hao heard this, he glared at Tang Yu. When he saw Tang Yu, he thought of his fiancée who had died tragically. He wished he could drink the blood and eat the flesh of this damn fatty in front of him. A life for a life. I want his life. Lu Hao said word by word, his hand once again reaching for his dagger. But this time he did not act rashly. He knew that as long as Yun Songlong was here, even if he shot out a concealed weapon, he would not have the chance to hurt Tang Yu. "I didn't kill her. She was the one who took things too hard. Why should I pay with my life? Moreover, that woman is only a commoner." When Tang Yu heard this, he also became angry. Today, his mother was not here, and his grandfather was also not here. If second uncle was impulsive and really wanted him to pay with his life, wouldn't he be dead? It would have been better if Tang Yu did not open his mouth. Once he opened his mouth, Song Lang and Huanu immediately glared at him. Most of the hunters were born poor, and they could not bear to hear the sons of officials discriminating against the commoners. Not only did Tang Yu humiliate the lady, he even dared to spout nonsense after her death. Such vile behavior was enough for him to die 1,000 times over. "Shut up, you little bastard." The veins on Yun Songlong's forehead throbbed as he slammed his palm onto the table. A handprint appeared on the several inches thick surface of the table. The wine glasses on the table were all shattered. Wine dripped down. Inside the tavern, only Tang Yu's frightened breathing could be heard. Yun Songlong's anger caused the temperature of the tavern to drop by several degrees. Tang Yu stole a glance at his second uncle. Song Lang and Huanu, on the other hand, had an indifferent expression as they drank the wine in their hands. After a while, it was Song Lang who spoke first. He put down his wine cup and said, "Leader Yun, I respect the residents of Yun for its loyalty and bravery. But sometimes a piece of rat poop will spoil the whole pot of porridge. In this case, the gains will not make up for the losses." Song Lang's words were light but heavy at the same time. The murderous intent in his words was self-evident. The vice leader of Huanu also sat at the side with a kind smile on his face. But if one took a closer look, one would realize that the magic scepter in Huanu's hand was shining with a moving light. She was already prepared to chant a spell. Song Lang alone might not be Yun Songlong's opponent. But with the addition of an extremely aggressive fire element mage, the outcome would be hard to say. Since we have already spoken to this point, I think Leader Yun should understand our intentions. I will make a decision on behalf of Lu Hao. A life for a life. As long as the residents of Yun agrees, the Wolfang Hunting Corps will promise you that we will not cause trouble at the residents of Yun in the future. But if Leader Yun does not agree, then the Wolfang Hunting Corps and the Sky Hunting Corps will be mortal enemies. Song Lang's words were resolute and decisive. There was no room for negotiation. Chapter 352. The matter had escalated from Tangyu to the entire Sky Expedition Hunting Corps. It was not enough for Song Lang to become the leader of an A-grade hunting corps based on his cultivation base alone. He was like a wolf king. He was cunning and meticulous. He was the leader of the entire hunting corps and also the one who controlled the entire situation. Yun Songlong had to consider carefully. As the leader of the hunting corps, he could not sit back and watch hundreds of hunters be implicated because of his personal affair. Tangyu's body of fat was trembling non-stop. He did not even dare to cry or make a fuss. "Leader Yun, I'll give you 3 days to consider. Tell me your answer after you've thought it through. I hope you don't have any other ideas, such as secretly sending them away. The boundless land is huge, but there are traces of the hunting corps everywhere." Song Lang stood up and was about to leave with Huanu and Lu Hao. "There's no need for 3 days. I can answer you right now. We won't hand them over." The door of the inn was pushed open. The owner of the inn hurried forward to stop the guests. "Dear guests, the inn is closed today. We won't be serving any guests." Seeing the guests, Yun Songlong's gloomy face brightened up. Tangyu, however, twitched as if he was suffering from epilepsy. There were also 2 men and a woman who entered. However, their formation was different from the Wolfang Hunting Corps. Among the 3 people who entered, it was obvious that the female sorcerer was the leader. She was the smallest and the youngest, but she was at the front. Judging from the female sorcerer's travel-worn appearance, she had just returned from overseas. However, the bright smile on her face did not make one feel tired at all. She had a pair of unusually clean black eyes. Her hair of the same color was casually tied behind her back with a cat's eye red jade hairpin. There was a slender magic scepter hanging from her waist. She gave off a very comfortable feeling. Of the 2 men behind her, one was a young and tall warrior. The other one was an elegant young master. He did not need to say a word, but he was a handsome man who gave off an oppressive air of nobility. Yun Songlong saw that his niece was safe and sound and smiled in relief. The emotions that had been suppressed by Tang Yu's matter these few days had also faded. He knew that Yun Sheng must have her reasons for coming here, so he didn't say much and let Yun Sheng have the right to speak. Yun Sheng smiled at Yun Songlong. She wasn't here to meet second uncle. Her beautiful eyes seemed to sweep across the people of the Wolfang Hunting Corps as she clasped her hands. "This one is Yen Yun, the vice leader of the Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps." Yun Sheng came back around sunrise. She returned to the medical hall first. Over the past few days, the incident at the residence of Yun had been the hottest topic in the city. Lin Yao collected a lot of information. When Yun Sheng heard this, she rushed to the Yun residence without resting. Just as Lin Yao had said, there was a coffin outside the Yun residence. The coffin was open, and inside lay the unfortunate woman who had died tragically. Yun Sheng didn't enter the general's residence. She pretended to be a passerby and looked around the woman's coffin before asking the woman's family some questions. Just as she was asking around, Uncle Yun walked out of the residence. When he saw Yun Sheng, He was overjoyed and secretly pulled Yunsheng to one side and told Yunsheng about the negotiation between Yun Songlong and the Wolfang hunting corps at the pub. That was why Yunsheng rushed to the pub. After hearing Yunsheng's self-introduction, the three people from the Wolfang hunting corps were surprised. They didn't expect that the vice leader of the newly established Wolfang hunting corps was actually this young female hunter. One had to know that it was a very difficult task to establish a hunter corps on the continent. Most of the hunters had been in the hunter world since they were young. They had to complete countless difficult missions before they could gradually accumulate fame and wealth in the hunter world. After they had enough fame and wealth, some people would form their own hunting squad or even a hunting corps. For those who were lucky, it would take 10 years. For those who were unlucky, it might take 20 years. So the hunting corps leaders or hunting corps leaders in the hunting corps, the youngest one was at least 30 years old. The older ones like Song Lang were already 4 years old. Feng Kuo from Huang Teng's trio was already considered the youngest among them. But how old was Yunsheng? She was really 8 years old, but her appearance was only 12 or 13 years old. No wonder the few people from the Wolfang hunting corps were dumbfounded. When they were mumbling about Yunsheng's age, they suddenly thought of her name. Yin Yun. This name, why did it sound so familiar? Lu Hao, who was by the side, stared at Yunsheng strangely and cried out as if he had seen a ghost. You are bloody Lolita. Yin Yun of the Huangting hunting troop. The Yin Yun who killed the Dark Guard hunting corps, and had a master like Emperor Zhao. Lu Hao's shouting made Song Lang and Huanu think of this person. Hunters who had reached the level of Song Lang and Huanu would never go to the hunting corps citadel. But their subordinates were different. Usually, after they finished their missions, they would go to the hunting corps citadel to participate in a few fights for a few drinks or to vent their anger. Coincidentally, when Huang Tong's group of 4 was taking part in the B-grade hunter squad assessment, Lu Hao was also taking part in the hunter combat arena with his fellow hunter brothers. Because of the later Qin's Dark Guard hunting corps, the entire hunting corps citadel knew about Huang Tong's fight. The tickets for the last fight were sold at a sky-high price. When Lu Hao went to buy the tickets, they were already sold out. In order to make up for his regret, he had to spend a high price to buy a magic scroll that recorded the fight. The scene where Yunsheng killed the Dark Guard hunting corps left a deep impression on him. But because Yunsheng was wearing an illusion earring, he did not recognize her. Now that he heard Yunsheng's words and looked at the familiar magic scepter in Yunsheng's hand, he immediately recognized Yunsheng. Huangting, are you talking about the B-grade hunting corps that has been in the limelight recently? It is said that they have the chance to become the first A-grade hunting corps in the boundless continent. Speaking of Huangting, Song Lang had some impression of it. Huanu also had a curious look on her face. She had seen the magic scroll that Lu Hao had bought earlier. Who would have thought that this little girl who looked as fresh as Jasmine was actually the bloody Loli who killed without blinking an eye? It was just that her appearance was not related to bloody Loli. Yi Baiming, who was listening at the side, looked at Yunsheng from head to toe with a mischievous look on his face. He did not expect that the little wild cat had done so many things before reuniting with him. Yunsheng felt goosebumps all over her body when he looked at her. She rolled her eyes back at him. I'm indebted to the brothers from the Hunter Union for thinking so highly of me. I seem to have such a nickname in the past. Facing the crowd who looked as if they had seen a ghost, Yunsheng chuckled and did not shy away, directly admitting her identity. Chapter 353. Yin Yun was ruthless and had a good relationship with Huang Tong, a newly established hunting team. He also had the backing of a powerful figure like Emperor Zhao. Song Lang could not help but frown when all these factors were added together. However, he had already stated his conditions. If they were to speculate about the power behind Yin Yun and the news spread, the Wolfang hunting troop would no longer be able to survive in the underworld. Deputy Commander Yan, you're a little late. I've already discussed the conditions with Commander Yun. Also, this is a private matter between Wolfsfang and Tang Yu. I don't think you're willing to let the Heaven Extermination Hunting Group get involved in this. Song Lang looked at Yunsheng and Tang Yu and knew that they didn't have much of a relationship. He thought that Yin Yun would not be here to help Tang Yu. Don't worry, we don't have the time to clean up that kid's mess. He will get into trouble sooner or later. Yunsheng was not in the mood to care about Tang Yu at first. She and the Tang family's mother and son had disliked each other for a long time. She did not even have the mood to talk to them. However, she happened to discover something interesting outside the Yun residence. As long as Tang Yu was still a member of the Yun residence and Yunsheng still had the blood of the Yun family flowing in her body, Tang Yu's matter would not be unrelated to her. Yunsheng had always been someone who dealt with matters and not people. Due to the protection of a special magic array, the hanged woman's corpse was still well preserved. Her face was even more lifelike. If not for her cold limbs, one would not be able to tell that she had been dead for more than 10 days. When she saw the woman's death earlier, she was even more disgusted with Tang Yu. However, when she took a closer look at the woman in the coffin, she realized that something was amiss. Although Yunsheng was not a forensic doctor, she had seen many corpses in the dissection room of the university when she was studying medicine. Some of them died of natural causes, while others died of various reasons. Therefore, she had some understanding of corpses. Normally, when a civilian died, there were no forensic doctors or coroners in the boundless land. The local government would participate in the investigation of the cause of death and invite a doctor to confirm it. However, because this matter involved the Marshal St. General's mansion, the government had some scruples. In the end, it was still the family of the woman who invited a doctor from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Coincidentally, the doctor the woman's family invited was none other than Chang Sihai. After Chang Sihai examined the woman's body, he concluded that the woman had hanged herself. Yunsheng also saw the woman in the coffin. There were obvious marks on her neck and her face was blue. She had also asked the woman's family. His mother doted on him too much. His maternal grandfather Yun Ba was also very protective of him, and his second uncle Yun Songlong was also indifferent towards him. This was the reason why he had become like this today. Yunsheng was the first person who dared to speak to him in such a tone. However, Tang Yu couldn't refute. He had seen how powerful Yunsheng was. He heard from his mother that his second uncle's hand was cured by this murderous female jinx. Not only that, his mother also said that her alchemy skills were also very high. Previously, the son of the elder of Wushuan Limitless School's medicine hall was said to have offended this little jinx and was thus poisoned to death. Yunsheng naturally didn't know that in the outside world, other than her superb medical skills and bloody lowly, she also had the title of poison doctor. Although Cong Lang and Huanu weren't medical practitioners, they also felt that Yunsheng's analysis just now was reasonable. However, Lu Hao was emotional and refused to agree to the other party's autopsy no matter what. Deputy Commander Yen, you also saw that Lu Hao has a bad temper. If he doesn't want to, none of us can do anything to convince him. I have an idea that may be able to calm both sides down. Huanu saw a group of big men staring at each other for a long time without a result, so she simply walked out and acted as a peacemaker. Yunsheng looked at Huanu and saw that she was gorgeous and spoke quite appropriately. She was a woman and a magician, but she could be called an A-level hunter in the hunting world of Zhou State, where warriors were respected. If the other party was not outstanding in magic, then she must have some skills. Sometimes compared with men, women could indeed play a different role. Deputy Commander Hua, what's your plan? Yunsheng didn't know the other party's intention, so she followed Huanu's meaning and said, everyone is a hunter. There has always been only one rule for hunters to speak and do things. Whoever is stronger will have the final say. There are people from the Wolffang Hunting Corps and the Sky Hunting Corps present. Why don't we choose 3 people and have a competition? 3 wins and 2 losses. Whoever wins more will have the final say. Huanu chuckled and her pair of charming eyes lingered on Yun Songlong for a while. You're tuning into the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.